Chapter 766. After Jiao Shi appeared on the stage, he immediately received numerous cheers. This guy was a bit arrogant. He even walked around the arena with his sword, which made the crowd move up and down. No one was watching the two people fighting in the arena. When he finished walking around the arena, he stepped on his flying sword and slowly landed on the ground, returning to his seat. As soon as he landed, a large group of reporters immediately surrounded him. Mr. Jiao, how confident are you that you will win against Lin Jun this time? Mr. Jiao, the Imperial Preceptor recommended you to be the first one to fight against Lin Jun. Does that mean he wants to focus on training you? Lin Jun has now provoked public anger in the Qin Kingdom. There's a little girl here who has made a request to you. She wants you to teach him a lesson instead of defeating him in one move. Can you fulfill this little girl's wish? Mr. Jiao, I'm a reporter from Reddy County. The people there have prepared to erect a monument for you. Don't you want to say something to them? What do you think of Lin Jun's strength? The reporters were buzzing everywhere like flies, but Jiao, she didn't show any impatience. Everyone, can I ask you one by one? After all, I only have one mouth. I can't answer all your questions at the same time. Jiao, she smiled and began to answer the questions one by one. I can't say that I have 100% confidence to defeat Lin Jun. After all, this person once won the first place in the Star of Divine Punishment. He is still very strong. However, I have made sufficient preparations for this battle. If I am rational, I should be able to defeat him within 10 moves. The Imperial Preceptor has been very kind to me. Whether he wants to focus on training me or not, I will repay him with a satisfying victory. Tell that little girl for me that I will fulfill her wish. There's no need to erect a monument for me. Help me thank the people for their kind intentions. Jiaoshi will definitely not disappoint them. With Lin Jun's strength, I can only say that he is a world king powerhouse. But I must apologize. I'm a longevity realm powerhouse. Not only will I win, but I will also not give him the chance to crush his protective talisman. Lin Jun, I am here to inform you that you had best crush your protective talisman and screw off. Otherwise, I will catch you, dig out your eyes, and then tie your intestines around your neck. Everything is over, haha. Jiaoshi's confidence also infected the reporters present, and enthusiastic reports came out one after another. Some articles attracted people's attention, and some attracted the analysis of data emperors. But no matter how they analyzed and judged, Jiaoshi's victory was certain. Now the focus of the issue was whether Lin Jun had the chance to crush the talisman and leave. Everyone was talking at once, trying to think of a way to prevent Lin Jun from crushing his protective talisman. The people of the state of Qin were very worried. They were worried that Lin Jun would crush his protective talisman as soon as he came up. If that was the case, although they couldn't scrupulously ridicule Lin Jun, the ending would be too boring. People waited patiently. The food stalls around the arena were the most popular. People ate, drank, and waited for the show to start. They were waiting for the two protagonists to appear on stage. What happened here didn't affect the battles in the other arenas. Millions of contestants were being eliminated at a rapid speed. The quality of the first arena match was mixed. There were strong and weak people. Some people were too weak, and the difference in strength was too great. They were often knocked out of the arena in just a few moves. If they could crush their protective talisman, they could be considered lucky. Some people were not strong enough and still wanted to persist. What awaited them was their death in the arena. Among them, it was not uncommon to see people eliminate their opponents in one move. For example, there was an old granny from Nanliang named Zhao Lihua. She struck out with her claws, piercing through her opponent's chest and pulling out his heart. Her opponent crushed a talisman, but left with his corpse wrapped in it. After one battle after another, it was finally time for Lin Jun to appear. On the arena, a cultivator wearing a cloak, whose face could not be seen clearly, was fighting with someone. This martial artist was also in the longevity realm. After getting on stage, he directly raised his hand. Thunder Palm exploded. The opponent didn't even see him clearly and was directly blasted into minced meat. This also shocked many people who were watching the show. Originally, no one paid much attention to the arena, but the strength of this cloaked martial artist was too strong. The opponent was also in the longevity realm. He didn't even make a move, and it was over. People also remembered this mysterious person who used the thunder palm. However, their attention quickly returned to the arena because the next match was the big show that the people of the state of Qin were looking forward to. It was the match between Lin Jun and Jiao Shi. The arena was being cleaned up. After the arena was cleaned up, both sides would automatically go on stage. People were looking for Lin Jun's traces everywhere. The arena was almost cleaned up. Only then did they see Lin Jun enter the arena slowly. When Lin Jun flew over the sky on the two-headed demonic dragon, almost all the cameras were aimed at him. Lin Jun didn't have any facial movements or expressions. They couldn't miss the slightest bit. They saw Lin Jun flying over with an ugly expression. The expression on his face was so gloomy that it could drip water. Seeing this scene, the people of the state of Qin rejoiced. Lin Jun is afraid. Look, his expression is obviously afraid. Everyone, we can almost celebrate in advance. After Lin Jun arrived, the expression on his face was as if his mother had died. For a warrior, mentality is also very important. In the face of a strong enemy like Jiao Shi, this kind of mentality is almost impossible to win. The people of the state of Qin began to spontaneously form a human wave. Looking around, the entire arena was a sea of jubilation. People stood up and sat down in waves. With their neat clothes, it really felt like a sea. The cheers resounded through the sky at this moment. People in the distance heard the cheers and rushed over. With such a big movement, there was no doubt that Lin Jun appeared. Even the big shots on the blue whale in the distance cast their eyes over. Seeing such a situation, the broadcast on the back of the blue whale immediately switched to Lin Jun. Zhu Ziheng looked at Lin Jun on the screen and said to the Empress next to him, "This person is Lin Jun." The Empress nodded. "I know this person. If it weren't for him, I'm afraid you wouldn't be where you are today. And I'm very interested in this person." "Why do you say that, Empress?" "Because he kidnapped the Empress of the Southern Liang." Zhu Ziheng was speechless. He suddenly felt that Lin Jun was extremely dangerous. Looking at his beautiful wife, he couldn't help but move closer and protect her. He thought to himself that if Lin Jun wanted to see his Empress, he definitely couldn't let him see her. Qian Tong also narrowed his eyes slightly, thinking that she was really lucky. If the few seeds he had decided on met Lin Jun, how good would it be? They would be able to make a name for themselves in the first round. Long Guru, Sakya, and the others were secretly cheering for Lin Jun, but in such an environment, they couldn't shout out anything. They didn't dare to shout. Below the arena, Lin Jun's cheering group didn't care about this. When the whole world was booing Lin Jun, their cheers were so clear. "Go, Lin Jun! Lin Jun is invincible! Invincible! Wife killer! Sweep across the primordial realm." Lin Jun was just about to greet his cheering group, but when he heard this, he almost vomited blood. He was a little depressed today. Yesterday, he had already wanted to push Xian Er down, but this girl actually went back on her words at the last moment. She said that now wasn't the time, and that she would wait for the right time to give Lin Jun a big gift. Lin Jun didn't know what the big gift was. To him, Xian Er's pure body was the best gift, but unfortunately, she couldn't give it to him for the time being. He couldn't vent his anger, so he naturally didn't have a good expression today. However, when he arrived at the scene, Lin Jun found something fun. It turned out that the people of the Qin state hated him so much. Such a grand scene of opposition was probably not even seen when the emperor ascended the throne. Okay, anyway, my reputation in the Qin state is already bad enough. Then, I might as well make it worse. When he got down from the two-headed demon dragon, the time was up. The number plate on his body started to activate the teleportation power, directly sending Lin Jun and Jiao Shi to the arena. At this moment, countless films were shot in seconds, and the entire arena was covered with flashes. On the opposite side, Jiao Shi was dressed in white. Although he was much worse than Lin Jun, he could barely be regarded as a talent. He looked at Lin Jun with his hands behind his back, with a mocking smile at the corner of his mouth. Lin Jun tidied up his clothes and looked at Jiao Shi. Jiao Shi didn't immediately make a move. With such a good opportunity, he must grasp it well and leave some deep impression on the people of the country. "Lin Jun, Do you know who I am? It doesn't matter who you are. The people here today are all here to see me. If it weren't for me, you would just be a nobody. Jiaoshi was suddenly choked by Lin Jun and couldn't speak. His face turned into a pig liver color. Lin Jun was right. If it weren't for him, the public enemy, standing here, who would know who Jiaoshi was? However, Jiaoshi still couldn't accept such insulting words and couldn't help but become angry. Presumptuous. Lin Jun, remember this. I am Jiaoshi, a guest of Imperial Preceptor Qiantong. Today, I am entrusted by the people of the Great Qin Empire to take your life in the arena. When you go to the Yellow Springs, don't forget that I am the one who will kill you. While he was speaking with righteous indignation, Lin Jun didn't look at him at all. Instead, he faced the camera and said, "Do you all want to see me eliminated?" "We do." The deafening sound from below was heard. "Then, did you bring enough food? Don't starve. If I don't get beaten to death, you people will starve to death." Such naked provocation made the people of the Great Qin Empire even angrier. However, they didn't have a unified slogan to scold Lin Jun, and the audience was a mess. Some radical people even threw rotten eggs and rotten persimmons, but the arena was protected, and they couldn't hurt Lin Jun at all. At this time, Jiaoshi felt that he had to make a move. The long sword in his hand shook, and thousands of pear blossoms burst out. Before he could send out his long sword, Lin Jun moved. Armor transformation. Armor transformation was different from galactic beast transformation. After Lin Jun transformed into armor transformation, he became a humanoid combat weapon. He was more than 3 meters tall, covered in scales, and protruding bone spikes. He looked like a prehistoric beast as he pounced at Yi Shiwen. In the process of pouncing, he teleported. In the blink of an eye, Lin Jun was in front of Jiaoshi. He grabbed him with both hands, and the two of them instantly formed a stalemate of star power. Jiaoshi's star power was 34 million, and Lin Jun's star power was 34 million. Originally, they were the same as Lin Jun, but Lin Jun used 100% of his star power. Coupled with the explosive increase in strength after the armor transformation, he actually pushed Jiaoshi to the ground. Lin Jun didn't give Jiaoshi any chance. He directly rode on Jiaoshi's body, raised his watermelon-sized fists, and rained down punches on Jiaoshi like raindrops. He wanted to vent all the depression in his heart in this battle. He wanted to ruthlessly beat up this reckless thing. Chapter 767. The state of Qin had created so much momentum for Jiaoshi to defeat Lin Jun. There were more than 150 billion people watching the Holy Land of Fallen Star. Now, hundreds of billions of people were focused on the battle between Lin Jun and Jiaoshi. At the beginning of the competition, various media outlets publicized and reported on Jiaoshi, praising him as if he was rare in the heavens and unparalleled on the earth. His momentum almost surpassed that of the state preceptor, Qiantong. People from all walks of life began to analyze and compare the strength of the two people. Both of them had the same star power, but the most important point was that Jiaoshi was at the peak of the longevity realm. He had much more combat experience than Lin Jun. In terms of experience, Lin Jun was completely defeated. Jiaoshi was taught by State Preceptor Qiantong. Although State Preceptor Qiantong was an alchemist, he was also a powerful warrior at the peak of the Three-Flower Realm. What about Lin Jun? He didn't even have a teacher. Lin Jun was completely defeated in this regard. Therefore, whether it was in terms of combat skills, combat experience, or the martial arts taught by his teacher, Jiaoshi had a complete victory. Lin Jun had no chance of winning. What's more, he had the support of the whole country. Everything was in place, so there was almost no possibility of losing this battle. Many people even analyzed what would happen once the battle entered a stalemate, and what would happen when Lin Jun went all out. Jiaoshi also bought medicine and prepared to use his star power at the critical moment, although he felt that he wouldn't need it at all. Although this was not what he thought, the result was the same. He really didn't need it. This was because Lin Jun had activated his armor transformation at the first moment. He had used his strength to overpower him and push him to the ground. Jiaoshi originally wanted to dodge with an unconventional move, But he didn't expect Lin Jun to directly pounce on him. Like a street gangster fighting, Lin Jun rode on his body and punched him. Perhaps there had never been such a miserable warrior who was being ridden and beaten in the arena. Lin Jun rode on him. Before the first punch fell, Jiaoshi spat out a mouthful of blood. It wasn't because he was beaten, but because he was angry. Lin Jun, you bastard, can't you fight like a normal person? Bang! Before he could finish his sentence, Lin Jun's fist landed on his nose. Blood splattered everywhere, and his eyeballs almost popped out. Jiaoshi's head bust. No matter what kind of martial artist he was, being punched in the face like this would be unbearable. However, this guy still had some combat awareness. He flipped the sword in his hand and stabbed at Lin Jun from his side. Sparks flew out, bringing up a bit of blood, but Lin Jun was not seriously injured at all. Firstly, he couldn't exert any force from his lower body. Secondly, Lin Jun's immortal spirit body was too strong after transforming into an armor. It wasn't something an attack of this level could shake. After that, he no longer had the strength to fight back. After Lin Jun transformed into his armor, his huge but sat firmly on his waist, making him unable to move at all. Punches rained down on his head. Other than using his hands to protect his head, he couldn't do anything else. One punch was bleeding. 2 punches made him dizzy. 3 punches fractured his bones. And after 4 punches, he didn't even know who he was. This kind of scene was beyond everyone's expectations, including the people who supported Lin Jun. These people from Lin Jun's hometown didn't do well after coming to the Primordial Realm. The Primordial Realm was too expensive. Without any skills, they came to the Primordial Realm and were at the bottom. They struggled bitterly for many years. However, what made them happy was that they knew about Lin Jun. This young man who showed great talent in the new territories was also doing well in the Primordial Realm. He was so powerful that he could make the Emperor wear a green hat and still be safe and sound. This was something they didn't even dare to think about. However, Lin Jun was on the Star of Divine Punishment, so they couldn't meet him. This time, when they heard that Lin Jun was participating in the selection of the Holy Land of Fallen Star Lake, these people decided to support Lin Jun. Tens of thousands of people from the new territories gathered here from thousands of miles away, forming a group to support Lin Jun. However, in their hearts, Lin Jun probably didn't have any big achievements in this arena. It would be good enough if he could pass 2 or 3 rounds. Some people even pessimistically thought that Lin Jun had the highest chance of being eliminated in the first round. However, they never imagined that Lin Jun would be so fierce, beating up his opponent as soon as he came up. This was really a violent beating. Riding on top of beating, these punches didn't just land on Jiaoshi's face, but on the faces of all the people of the state of Qin. All the people of the state of Qin were listless at this moment. They covered their faces, gritted their teeth, or had tears in their eyes. They looked like their mothers had died. Especially when Jiaoshi said that he was a guest of the state preceptor, Qian Tong, and that he was entrusted by the people of the state of Qin. Now all of that was smashed back down. The huge arena was so quiet that there was no sound at all. Lin Jun was obviously unforgiving. He kept smashing his opponent while cursing at the same time. You dare to say that you can destroy me with just a lowly thing like you? Bang! Is there no one else in the state of Qin? They chose a trash like you to deal with me. What a joke. Pop, pop, pop. When his fists were tired, Lin Jun simply raised his hand and slapped that pig-like face. Lin Jun could kill him with a punch at any time. At this moment, Jiaoshi was so stunned that he even forgot to crush the talisman. However, Lin Jun didn't want to kill him immediately. He wanted to torture this guy and let these people who were not pleasing to the eye feel aggrieved for a while. Lin Jun had never been a good-tempered person, especially when these people were trying to put a hat on her. It was obvious that she, Little Phoenix, and Xian were all in love with each other, but they actually gave her the title of someone who liked to put a green hat on others. Didn't they see what kind of trash Liang Jihuan and Junimo were? How could they be worthy of the person he liked? Unfortunately, people wouldn't listen to Lin Jun's explanation. He couldn't take off this accusation. But since you dare to ridicule me, then be prepared to pay the price of ridicule. The one-sided beating in the ring continued, but the people below the ring couldn't stand it anymore. Lin Jun, have you had enough? Arrogant. So F asterisk king arrogant. I'm pissed off. Don't pull me. I'm going to go on stage and destroy you. Too arrogant. You're insulting us now. Be careful that you'll suffer retribution in the next round. I don't believe you can kill all the way. The people below the ring were shocked, and the people on the back of the blue whale frowned slightly, especially State Preceptor Qiantong. In the first round of elimination, the disciples he paid attention to had all achieved good results and passed smoothly, but he didn't expect Jiao Shi to have a problem. Among all the 100 guests under him, Jiao Shi ranked about 30th, which was not bad. It was reasonable to say that there was no problem in passing. But this battle was too F asterisk king unfair. Jiao Shi's skills and preparations were wasted. He didn't play at all. Lin Jun's ability to grasp the situation of the battle was also strong enough. He teleported over and directly pushed with brute force, and then violently beat him up. There was no grace at all, no elegance of a senior cultivator. This guy was completely shameless, and the people he had slapped were even more shameless. Everyone in the country had no face. Qiantong's face was also burning hot, and the gazes of the people around him were making him feel extremely uncomfortable. At this moment, Qiantong even hoped that Lin Jun would kill Jiao Shi immediately. That would be better than this. Below the ring, the people who supported Lin Jun were frantically shouting, whistling, and even shooting elemental force into the air to simulate fireworks. All of this was in sharp contrast to the anger and annoyance of the Qin State's cultivators. Lin Jun beat Jiao Shi for a while until he was a little tired and finally stood up. With one hand, he grabbed Jiao Shi's collar as if he was holding a rag doll. Dragging Jiao Shi across the ring, Lin Jun said lightly, I think that as a cultivator, you should have the spirit to fight to the end, but I think you're just a coward who is afraid of death. You actually dared to boast about representing the Qin State. Now, I'll give you a chance. If you have the guts, represent the Qin State and fight me again. As he spoke, Lin Jun raised his hand, and a ball of gentle holy light energy enveloped Jiao Shi and healed most of his injuries. The swelling on his face was obviously reduced. Although it wasn't completely healed, he was definitely able to fight. Jiao Shi, get up and fight. Jiao Shi, everyone is looking at you. You'd rather die in battle than admit defeat. Even if you lose, you have to lose with backbone. Don't be scared by him. This was the last face of the Qin State's cultivators, and they all hoped that Jiao Shi could live up to their expectations. Jiao Shi woke up from his dizziness and was shocked to see Lin Jun in front of him, who was like a giant beast. Lin Jun suddenly opened his mouth, his voice like a bell. Jiao Shi, do you dare to fight with me? Jiao Shi was being held in Lin Jun's hand at this moment, and his momentum was already gone. In addition, the violent beating just now made his mind not clear. He immediately waved his hand in fright. Don't fight, don't fight. Boss Lin Jun, spare my life. Looking at Jiao Shi's appearance, Lin Jun laughed for a while. It turns out that you only have this little ability. But if you don't want to fight, what if I haven't beaten enough? At this moment, Jiao Shi's eyes were all about Lin Jun. He completely forgot about the situation in the arena. He immediately held his head with both hands and prepared to be beaten again. This was submission. As long as Lin Jun didn't kill him, he could beat him up. But the moment he held his head with both hands, he suddenly saw the talisman in his palm. F asterisk CK. I can admit defeat at any time. Why do I have to look like a slave? Jiao Shi's heart heated up, and he almost spat out another mouthful of blood. He knew that everything was over. Not only did he lose, but he also made a fool of himself. He was afraid that the person the Qin State's people would hate the most in the future would not be Lin Jun, but him, Jiao Shi. Originally, he wanted to save his image and say some polite words, but when he saw Lin Jun waving his iron fist again, Jiao Shi was so scared that he didn't care about anything and directly crushed the talisman. A ball of light enveloped him and brought him out of the arena. The Holy Land's AI system immediately gave a verdict. Congratulations to Lin Jun of the Galactic Beast Alliance for winning and advancing to the next round. Lin Jun won and stroked his chest with his hand. Much better. Chapter 768. Lin Zhen's provocative and sarcastic actions made the people of the Qin state furious. This Lin Zhen is too damn arrogant. Jiaoxi is also a good-for-nothing. He has no backbone at all. He's a disgrace to the people of the Qin state. Let's see who's up against Lin Zhen in the next round. Let's see if he can kill him. The people of the Qin state began to inquire about Lin Zhen's opponent in the next round. After Lin Zhen's match ended, his next opponent was revealed. It was someone called Kong Shi. This person was not from the Great Qin Empire, but from the West Qin. His weapons were dual swords, known as the fastest swordsman in the West Qin. Compared with Jiaoxi, Kong Shi was more famous. Seeing that Lin Zhen's opponent was Kong Shi, the people of the Qin state felt that there was hope this time. Jiaoxi was not a particularly outstanding guest under the state preceptor. His strength was not as good as Kong Shi's. Lin Zhen will definitely lose to Kong Shi. Yes, Kong Shi has real strength. He's very good at using the fast sword. He's also one of the top immortal martial artists in the West Qin. For a time, Kong Shi's popularity in the dimensional universe skyrocketed. People were paying attention. Many people even gave Kong Shi gifts and promised that as long as Kong Shi defeated Lin Zhen, they would support him, and so on. The martial artist named Kong Shi did not expect such a good thing to fall on his head. Jiaoxi's defeat gave him a chance. As long as he defeated Lin Zhen, he would be famous in the Qin state. Great happiness came, and he could not wait for the battle to start. Lin Zhen was teleported out of the arena and immediately came to his supporters. "You!" Lin Zhen only said this one sentence and then stopped. He shook hands and hugged everyone one by one, and even punched those who were close. "Brother Lin, you're doing really well in the Yuan realm. Although you have a lot of enemies, you're in a much better situation compared to people like us who aren't affected by anything." The former emperor of the Sky River Empire, Long Tian, was dressed casually. After entering the primordial realm, he was no longer an emperor, but an ordinary martial artist. But at the same time, Long Tian had made great progress over the years. He had jumped the gate when he was a king, and now he was at the early stage of the immortal realm. Whether it was to be an emperor or gain endless life, he believed that everyone would make the right choice. Chun Fenglai, Chun was also a world king when he hugged Lin Zhen. Zi Qinxia, the little princess from the great nebula of Andromeda, was also at the early stage of immortal realm. Lin Zhen hesitated to give her a hug, but she gave Lin Zhen a big hug instead. How about I let you use me tonight? Do you dare?" Lin Zhen was taken aback. He turned his head away, not wanting to talk to this crazy woman. Zi Qinxia giggled. Seeing Lin Zhen's embarrassment, everyone present laughed. "Brother, I think the people of the Great Qin Empire aren't very friendly to you. I'm afraid that every battle won't be easy. You have to be careful." Lin Zhen nodded. "I know, but the battles won't be so fast. It's the elimination stage now. I think I'll be able to fight 5 battles today." People surrounded Lin Zhen, asking Lin Zhen about what had happened after he arrived in the primordial realm. Lin Zhen would sometimes ask them about their situation, but everyone told him that they were doing well. They didn't want Lin Zhen to be distracted at this time. Looking at the familiar faces, Lin Zhen was very happy. This life was much better than his previous life. In his previous life, when Lin Zhen died, he didn't see anyone from Earth again. But in this life, not only did they survive, but they also went to the universe and even came to the primordial realm. Many of them even advanced to immortality. Everything he did finally paid off. Lin Zhen was very happy. Zhao Xiaoman said to Lin Zhen, "Big brother Lin, I saw that some casinos have open bets on you. They're predicting your ranking." "Oh, how do they predict it?" "Everything. You're now in the top 500,000. There are bets of 200,000 and even 100,000. Lin Zhen frowned slightly. "Am I that unfavored? The highest bet is only 100,000. "No, there are even more bets. There are tens of thousands and thousands, but basically no one is buying them. Because no one thinks that you can break through the encirclement and kill your way to the front under the sniping of the Qin people." Lin Zhen thought for a moment. Are there any bets on me being able to pass all the obstacles and enter the Holy Land? Yes, and the odds are quite high. Big brother Lin, do you think I should bet on you being able to enter the Holy Land? Lin Jun glanced at her. What do you think? I'll buy it immediately. Zhao Xiaoman jumped up excitedly. She immediately opened the dimensional universe and bet all her wealth on Lin Jun being able to enter the Holy Land. Big brother Lin, whether Zhao Xiaoman can become a rich woman in the future depends on this. Don't worry. If you lose, I'll take care of you in the future. Lin Jun said with a smile. Zi Qianxia suddenly smiled and said, Since you're so generous, should I also support you? If you lose, you'll take care of me too? Lin Jun nodded without hesitation. I'll take care of you. Zi Qianxia didn't say anything else. She bet all her wealth on Lin Jun being able to enter the Holy Land. The odds of entering the Holy Land were 1 to 100. If Lin Jun really did it, the two of them would be rich. At this time, the dwarf Nicole came out from the crowd. She was sweating profusely. Boss, I've been calling you from behind for a long time, but you didn't see me. Lin Jun was happy to see Nicole. It's your fault for being so short. It's normal that I can't see you. Boss, I heard that everyone bet on you being able to enter the Holy Land. If they lose, you'll take care of them. I'll also bet 50 million. That's all I have. Boss, if they lose everything, you'll have to take care of me. Lin Jun kicked Nicole back into the crowd. You'd better stay at the back. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Many of Lin Jun's supporters had bet on Lin Jun being able to enter the Holy Land. Lin Jun was determined not to let them lose money. The second battle soon began. Kong Shi, the fast swordsman from Western Qin, didn't act arrogantly like Jiao Shi. Instead, he chose to fight cautiously. This was exactly what Lin Jun wanted. This time, he didn't transform into his armor. Instead, he took out his Sky Cutter Divine Sword. The two of them fought each other at high speeds in the arena. In terms of speed, Lin Jun wasn't inferior to the others. With the ability to attack at the speed of light, no matter how fast his opponent was, he could only be on par with Lin Jun. In terms of swordsmanship, Lin Jun might be slightly inferior to Kong Shi. However, Lin Jun had the ability to accelerate and decelerate time. Kong Shi couldn't adapt to the sudden change in speed. After the two of them fought for about 5 minutes, Lin Jun pierced Kong Shi's lower abdomen with his sword. He knew when to advance and retreat. Knowing that he was no match for Lin Jun, he simply crushed his talisman and left the arena. In this way, Lin Jun defeated his second opponent and entered the third round. After more than 1 million people were eliminated in 2 rounds, there were still 262,144 people left. The people of the state of Qin calmed down a little this time. They had realized that Lin Jun was definitely not a pushover like they had imagined. He couldn't be eliminated by just anyone. They turned their attention to Lin Jun's opponent in the third round. In the third round, Lin Jun's opponent was a martial artist from the East Jin dynasty. No one had heard of his name before. He was at the early stage of the immortal realm. Seeing such an opponent, the people of the state of Qin couldn't help but wail. It was over. This person still couldn't stop Lin Jun's advancement. In fact, the martial artist at the early stage of the immortal realm was no match for Lin Jun at all. The two of them only fought for 3 moves before Lin Jun kicked him out of the arena. He advanced again. After 3 rounds in a row, the number of martial artists was only slightly more than 130,000. People still hoped that the next opponent would be more powerful, but they never expected that the next opponent was only at the middle stage of the immortal realm. In the Holy Land selection, cheating was not allowed. After a pair of team battles, the winner of their corresponding team would be the opponent. No one could interfere. Even if they interfered, it was impossible to calculate the ever-changing situation in the arena. In the eyes of the people of the state of Qin, Lin Jun advanced easily again. This time, the number of martial artists in the entire arena was only 65,536 people. After Lin Jun advanced again, his opponent would be the winner of the 2 immortal peak martial artists behind him. People were full of hope this time. The early stage and middle stage of the immortal realm couldn't win. It was estimated that it would be difficult for the late stage to win. These two immortal peak martial artists should be very difficult to deal with. A large group of people became fans of one person after another. They were disappointed again and again. They believed that there would be a good result this time. However, God really didn't listen to people's wishes. These two immortal peak martial artists didn't give in to each other in order to compete for the opportunity to advance. They fought like Mars colliding with Earth. In a last move, both of them were seriously injured. Moreover, both of them realized that they couldn't fight at the same time. They actually crushed the talisman in their hands at the same time. Looking at the two immortal peak martial artists who flew out of the arena at the same time, the people of the state of Qin cried until there were no tears left. This Lin Jun's life was too good. He actually won a round by lying down. He advanced without doing anything. In this way, Lin Jun didn't have a round. He could only wait for the end of the next round of elimination. When it was over, there were only 32,768 martial artists left in the arena. When the last round was finally over, the sky was already dark. The first day of elimination was over. Lin Jun had been chatting in his supporters group. After watching in boredom, he stretched and stood up. Chapter 769. After passing the fifth round lying down, the first day of the arena was considered to be over. Lin Jun looked at his opponent for the next round. It was also a member of the Galactic Beast Alliance, a supreme elder from the Dragon Clan, Ao Xiong. He was at the peak of the longevity realm and had a high-level divine body. This would be a tough battle. The people of the Galactic Beast Alliance did not belong to the Qin Kingdom, but they still swarmed over and cheered for Ao Xiong, the supreme elder from the Black Dragon Clan. In fact, Ao Xiong did not need to be cheered up. This black dragon was already more than 200,000 years old. He was truly a demon. His strength, skills, and so on were almost at their peak. In the first 5 rounds, Ao Xiong, the Black Dragon Elder, had almost crushed all his opponents. The battle time did not exceed a minute. After 5 rounds of elimination, there were now very few weak people who could reach this step. There were very few people who could get a bye like Lin Jun. The rest were basically powerhouses. Based on Ao Xiong's battle record, everyone could be sure that this person was a powerhouse among powerhouses. The people of the Qin Kingdom, who had been depressed for an entire day, finally became excited. It was as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Everyone was a warrior, so they did not need to go home to sleep at night. They simply stayed in the arena and discussed and drank under the lights. They talked about how Lin Jun would definitely be killed when the competition started tomorrow morning. Boss, I've got the information of the main possible opponents here. Take a look at it tonight and arrange targeted tactics. The dwarf Nicole ran to Lin Jun's side and brought him a piece of paper. On this piece of paper were warriors whose numbers started with the number 7. After a day of fighting, the people of the primordial realm had sorted out a lot of information. They did a lot of analysis of who was a powerhouse and who had the strength to enter the Holy Land. Among them, there were several super powerhouses in the 7th District. One of them was a warrior recommended by the state preceptor, Qiantong. His name was Xiao Se, and he was in the early stage of the 3-flower realm. His combat strength could be described as off the charts. There was also a mysterious person wearing a cloak who was good at using the Thunder Palm. He also defeated his opponent with 1 Thunder Palm. No one knew his true face. In addition, there were several 3-flower realm experts in this area, and none of them were to be trifled with. Peak longevity experts like Ao Xiong could be found everywhere. They could only be considered as the 2nd or 3rd group of people. Lin Jun checked the match list. If he won against Soaring Wings in the 1st round tomorrow, his opponents in the 2nd and 3rd round would be around the same level as Soaring Wings. No matter who won or lost, Lin Jun felt that he had a good chance of passing. Everyone was also helping Lin Jun calculate. They wanted to see if Lin Jun would encounter any strong opponents in the next few rounds. In the end, Zi Qianxia gave Lin Jun an answer. Lin Jun, if you can make it to the 4th round tomorrow, you have a high chance of encountering Xiao Se. Everyone lowered their heads and didn't make a sound. It was obvious that they were all worried about Lin Jun. Lin Jun took Xiao Se's information and looked over it. This was a cultivator recommended by Qiantong and should belong to the top group of characters in this area. As long as he and Xiao Se maintain a winning streak, they would meet in the 4th round. What if I beat him? Can you calculate who I'm likely to encounter? Well, it's not easy to calculate for the time being. There are too many people. If you finish the 3rd round tomorrow, it'll be clear. All right, see you tomorrow. Lin Jun closed his eyes slightly and waited for tomorrow's battle. Many people didn't rest that night, including Imperial teacher Qiantong. Qiantong's subordinates had all returned to summarize today's battle. Overall, today's battle was relatively smooth. Those who should have passed have passed. Qiantong's eyes swept the audience and paused for a moment. But there are still many shortcomings. Some people failed to surprise me. Everyone's eyes fell on Jiao Shi, who had crushed his talisman. Qiantong's eyes suddenly became cold. Jiao Shi, when the whole country was watching, you loudly announced that you were the candidate recommended by me, Qiantong. But what was the result of the final battle? Holy Master, you're subordinate. Say no more. Ever since I, Qiantong, became a saint-grade alchemist, I have never lost so much face. Not to mention the special significance of defeating Lin Jun. You couldn't even defeat a mere 5th-grade world king. Moreover, you were so high-profile before. You have lost all my face. Especially at the last moment, you didn't even have the courage to fight and chose to run away. I don't have an honored guest like you in my house. Jiaoshi's face also turned ugly. He was a longevity realm cultivator. Being reprimanded like a child was really uncomfortable. Forget it. If this place didn't accept him, there would be a place for him. He could go anywhere and make a living. He even wondered if he should find a chance to go to the new territories. Longevity realm cultivators were kings and sovereigns in the new territories. At that time, they would have everything they wanted. It would be better than living in the primordial realm. Since Imperial teacher doesn't need this subordinate, then this subordinate will take his leave. Humph! Do you think I, Qiantong, am a good-tempered person? Do you think the Imperial teacher's mansion is a place where you can come and go as you please? After Qiantong finished speaking, he suddenly raised his hand, and a black fog enveloped Jiaoshi. Jiaoshi wanted to dodge, but a cultivator beside him struck him lightly, directly blocking his path. With this delay, he was directly hit by the black fog. Suddenly, he was enveloped by it and let out a burst of ghostly wails. Imperial teacher, this subordinate knows his mistake. Please give me another chance. With a scream, pus and blood dripped down. Jiaoshi's entire body turned into a pool of black blood. After killing Jiaoshi, Qiantong's eyes fell on the cultivator who had just blocked Jiaoshi's path. Xiao Se, do you think I can't kill him? No. Imperial teacher, of course you can kill anyone here. This subordinate just doesn't want to see him stubbornly resisting. In fact, this kind of thing can be left to this subordinate. Qiantong nodded slightly, and then said to Xiao Se, since you are so loyal, you may have a task tomorrow. This subordinate understands. If I meet Lin Jun tomorrow, this subordinate will definitely not give him any way out. I believe in you. You are the guest of my mansion who is focused on training. You're different from Jiao, she who only knows how to talk big. Tomorrow, it's up to you. This subordinate also hopes so. I just hope that Lin Jun can work hard. If he is killed by Ao Xiang, it will be too disappointing. Asterisk, 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 asterisk in the dimensional universe. There were also voices of criticism against Lin Jun. The people of the state of Qin felt that Lin Jun's victories in these few rounds were obviously unfair and that he had gotten lucky. Except for the second round where he fought a few times, the next few people were too weak. There was even a round where no one could win. However, in tomorrow's battle, Lin Jun would definitely not be able to get away with it. It was very likely that he would be KO in the first round. The only thing that worried the people of the state of Qin was that both sides of the battle were from the Galactic Beast Alliance. If the Galactic Beast Alliance interfered and asked Ao Xiang to go easy, it would be terrible. Therefore, the people of the state of Qin warned the Galactic Beast Alliance on the forum to not try to play any tricks. The eyes of the people of the state of Qin were as sharp as snow. If they were found to be playing tricks, they would have to bear the consequences. In fact, the people of the state of Qin's worries were not without reason. The people of the Galactic Beast Alliance did intend to ask Ao Xiong to go easy on Lin Jun, mainly because the patriarch of the Fire Qilin clan, Sakya, valued Lin Jun too much. In his heart, Lin Jun was a black hole beast. As long as he could survive for a period of time safely, after he grew up, it would not be a problem for him to take over as the patriarch of the Fire Qilin clan or even the leader of the Galactic Beast Alliance. When he saw that tomorrow's first opponent was so strong, he thought that since they were all from the Alliance, he simply wanted to do his part. He even brought gifts to visit the Dragon Clan, hoping that Ao Xiong would go easy on Lin Jun and let him win. However, he overestimated his own reputation. For hundreds of millions of years, the leader of the Galactic Beast Alliance had been a martial artist from the Dragon Clan. Among the major clans of the Galactic Beast Alliance, the Dragon Clan was the most powerful. The Black Dragon Clan, the White Dragon Clan, the Fire Dragon Clan, the Golden Dragon Clan, the Thunder Dragon Clan. The Dragon Clan had dozens of super galactic beasts. They had the most people and the strongest strength. They had never put the other clans in their eyes. The patriarch of the Fire Qilin clan actually dared to make such a request, which made the people of the Dragon Clan laugh. Not only did they not give him any face, but they also threw out all of Sakya's gifts without even looking at what was inside. The Supreme Elder of the Black Dragon Clan was the only martial artist from the Black Dragon Clan who participated in the battle. He even smiled proudly at Sakya and said, "Patriarch Sakya, I'm afraid you found the wrong person with your shameless behavior. Tomorrow, not only will I not go easy on you, but I will also kill Lin Jun with all my strength. I heard that you have the intention to focus on training him. Are you planning to compete with the Dragon Clan for the position of the Alliance leader? It seems like I have to strangle your hope in the cradle." Ha ha ha. Sakya returned in a sorry state. This was not the end. At midnight, the news of the Black Dragon Clan's Ao Xiong angrily rebuking the patriarch of the Fire Qilin clan was exposed to the dimensional universe. For a moment, the entire Qi nation was in an uproar again. The people of the Qi nation angrily denounced the despicable behavior of the Qilin clan. Many people even demanded that Lin Jun's participation be disqualified. If you can win, then fight. If you can't win, then just admit defeat. What is this? Indeed, shameless people do shameless things. It's not rare for that bastard Lin Jun to do such things. Haha, it's so satisfying. You've been slapped in the face. Lin Jun will definitely surrender tomorrow. Everyone, watch carefully. See if they are putting on a show tomorrow. Maybe this video is just to deceive others. In fact, Ao Xiong went easy on Lin Jun. Then I'm afraid they've miscalculated. We're not blind. Lin Jun also found out about this matter amidst the condemnation. First of all, Lin Jun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Sakya was really doing more harm than good. He wasn't afraid, so why did he have to beg others? Moreover, he was also annoyed by the Dragon Clan's unreasonable behavior. If he rejected, then so be it. Why did he have to embarrass others in the dimensional universe? In this way, if Lin Jun wanted to prove his innocence, there was only one way. Chapter 770. The next morning, two suns hung in the sky above the Qin Kingdom. The weather was pleasant. As soon as the sky brightened, the crowd around the arena became restless. More than 1 million contestants came yesterday, and less than 10,000 of them died in the arena. Most of the remaining people did not leave immediately. One day of cultivation was not a big deal. Everyone wanted to see who would enter the Holy Land in the end. Lin Jun, in particular, received even more attention today after what happened last night. If it were anyone else, they would probably withdraw from the competition out of shame. However, no one thought that Lin Jun would withdraw from the competition. In the eyes of the people of the Qin Kingdom, this guy was already a complete villain. His skin was thicker than the barrier between the primordial realm and the new territories. It was not strange for him to do something like this. How could he withdraw from the competition because of shame? It had to be said that Lin Jun was sometimes really wronged. Perhaps not only the people of the Qin Kingdom, but even people from other countries did not have a good impression of him. The matter of the little phoenix, the crown princess, the wanted criminal, the fall of the royal family of the Southern Liang, the fall of the royal family of the Qin Kingdom, and now the bribery of others. This guy was simply unscrupulous in order to achieve his goals. However, a bad reputation had its benefits. People accepted this kind of thing rather calmly. However, many people already thought that there must be something fishy about this competition. They would keep their eyes on Lin Jun. If there were any problems, they would definitely ask the Holy Land to disqualify Lin Jun from the competition. Finally, it was time to start the competition. Lin Jun went on the arena amidst the boos of the crowd. The noise around him was unbearable. Most of them were saying that Lin Jun was cheating, but Lin Jun automatically filtered out these voices. Perhaps he was really thick-skinned. As a warrior, not being disturbed by external things was a basic quality. At the same time, the person who appeared in the arena with him was Ao Xiong, the supreme elder of the Black Dragon clan from the Galactic Beast Alliance. Ao Xiong was more than 200,000 years old this year, and his strength was just a step away from entering the Three-Flower Realm. When he faced Lin Jun, he felt like he was facing a child. Ao Xiong was tall, and his black clothes wrapped around his burly body. His eyes emitted a terrifying divine light. After sizing up Lin Jun for a while, Ao Xiong proudly said, "Junior of the Fire Kirin, do you know who I am?" Lin Jun also looked at Ao Xiong. "You look a little like my mount, but you're missing a head." "Presumptuous," Ao Xiong roared. His long hair danced in the air even though there was no wind. "Lin Jun, stop trying to cover up your guilty conscience with your words. Yesterday, your clan leader came to me and wanted me to give you a few moves in the arena. It would be best if I lost. You've come to the wrong person. Don't play dumb in front of me. I don't believe that you don't know about this. Your patriarch took the initiative to offer me 10 billion. Huh, how generous. Lin Jun, didn't you find out what kind of person I am before you took action?" Lin Jun wasn't in a hurry to fight. He squinted his eyes and asked, "What kind of person?" "The dragon race is the most outstanding race in the Galactic Beast Alliance. The Black Dragon race is the embodiment of integrity, courage, and fearlessness. I, Ao Xiong, use these creeds to teach my juniors. Those who went in front of me are simply asking for humiliation." Looking at Ao Xiong, who was full of righteousness, Lin Jun coughed. "Old mister, I think you might be mistaken about something." "What is it?" "I know that our clan leader want to look for you." "Of course. You, Lin Jun, have a bad reputation. There's nothing you can't do." "That's right. I told our clan leader that Ao Xiong was already so old, yet he insisted on participating in the arena. I didn't know how to control my strength. If I accidentally beat him to death, wouldn't it hurt the relationship within our alliance? So, I asked him to tell you that you should admit defeat. I'd rather spend 10 billion to make you admit defeat than kill you in the arena." Hearing Lin Jun's words, Ao Xiong was so angry that his whole body was trembling. "Good. You're distorting the truth. You dare to say that you're afraid of killing me in the arena? Good. Today, this old man wants to see which one of us will be able to defeat the other on the arena." Chapter 771. Ao Xiong held the talisman in his hand as he struggled to resist Lin Jun's crazy attacks. However, there was no way for him to turn the tables in this battle. Ao Xiong's heart was filled with apprehension, and his spirit had dissipated. He couldn't resist Lin Jun, who had nothing to worry about. When the battle reached a minute, Ao Xiong's staff hit Lin Jun's waist, but he paid the price of his right hand. His right hand was still holding the talisman, but now it had fallen to the ground. Ao Xiong immediately rushed over to grab the talisman. If he wanted to leave this place alive, he could only rely on this method. Lin Jun wouldn't let him succeed so easily. He waved the sky, slashing divine sword, and finally found an opportunity to cut off Ao Xiong's staff. After losing his weapon, Ao Xiong howled. His body turned into a huge black dragon, but he was missing a right front claw. He kept circling in the air, looking for an opportunity to take back his right hand, or rather, the talisman in his right hand. Lin Jun stepped on the plum blossom steps. This talisman was a bait that could send Ao Xiong to his death. Ao Xiong rushed over with all his might. Lin Jun calmly moved to the side. When the two of them crossed paths, Lin Jun's sword shook. Taking advantage of the black dragon's downward momentum, Lin Jun slashed out. Life ender. A trace of fluctuation appeared in the space of the arena. It was obvious how powerful this slash was. Dragon slaying with a slash. The huge dragon's head was directly chopped off by Lin Jun's bare hands. Bright red dragon blood spurted out. Oh my. Good stuff, good stuff. I can't waste it. When he saw the dragon's blood, Lin Jun's bad habit as an alchemist acted up. He immediately took out bottles and jars and began to collect the blood. He also took out a small knife to dissect the dragon's corpse. This scene made the people from the Galactic Beast Alliance frown. This is too much. After killing someone, he actually collected the blood and dissected it like a pig. This is too much. At this time, a notification sounded. The battle is over. Galactic Beast Alliance's Lin Jun advances. Hearing this, Lin Jun raised his hand and stored the dragon's corpse into his inner world. The next moment, he was teleported out of the arena. With this victory, he could be considered to have entered the top 16384. Victory in this battle was inevitable, but it was of great significance to Lin Jun. No one dared to say that Lin Jun won by bribing. Have you ever seen a briber kill the other party? The people of the state of Qin fell silent again and began to look for Lin Jun's next opponent. However, their disappointment was destined to continue because the next opponent seemed to be weaker than Ao Xiang. From morning to noon, there were 2 more rounds of fighting. In these 2 rounds, Lin Jun still displayed extremely powerful strength. He didn't seem to use any overly powerful ultimate moves, and he once again passed through 2 rounds. At this point, the Holy Land Challenge had already gone through 8 rounds. After 8 rounds, the total number of martial artists was only 4,096 people. Among these people, as long as they obtained 2 consecutive victories, they would definitely be able to enter the Holy Land. Good heavens! Who will stop Lin Jun? This guy has already passed the 8th round. Are we really going to watch him enter the Holy Land without anyone being able to stop him? Don't panic, don't panic. His next opponent will definitely not be able to pass. During the lunch break, Lin Jun's next opponent appeared. He was also recommended by the state preceptor, Qian Tong. This opponent's name was Xiao Se. After seeing Xiao Se, the eyes of all the people of the state of Qin lit up. This time, Lin Jun was really finished. Among all the martial artists whose names started with the number 7, Xiao Se could be said to be the first seeded contestant. Although the other mysterious man with a black hood was also very strong, he wasn't as famous as Xiao Se. Xiao Se was now at the early stage of the 3-flower realm. He had followed Qian Tong for tens of thousands of years and had countless glorious achievements in the state of Qin. When participating in the knockout round, Xiao Se even shouted a slogan. During the knockout round, he would definitely not use more than 20 sword strikes before entering the Holy Land. At that time, there were still many people who suspected that Xiao Se was bragging, but the actual battle situation stunned everyone. In the first 8 rounds, Xiao Se used a total of 13 sword strikes. 4 battles ended with 1 sword strike, 3 battles ended with 2 sword strikes, and 1 battle ended with 3 sword strikes. In the battle that ended with 3 sword strikes, Xiao Se's opponent was also at the 3-flower realm. Everyone thought that it would be a fierce battle, but the opponent with a star power of 50 million was only able to block 3 sword strikes from Xiao Se. According to the insider, Xiao Se's star power had already exceeded 60 million. Moreover, Xiao Se was the first in the Star of Divine Punishment in the last 3 rounds. He had a super divine body. Facing such an opponent, Lin Jun had absolutely no chance of winning. Therefore, when they saw Lin Jun facing Xiao Se, the people of the state of Qin were as happy as if they were celebrating the new year. Elemental fireworks rose into the sky and began a grand celebration in advance. On Lin Jun's side, the atmosphere was very depressing. No matter how they looked at it, Lin Jun couldn't possibly be Xiao Se's opponent. They thought that there was hope for him to enter the Holy Land, but now it seemed that it was over. Feeling the solemn atmosphere around him, Lin Jun was about to say a few words of comfort to everyone when suddenly someone said, "Xiao Se is coming." Lin Jun raised his head and saw that the crowd in front of him had dispersed, leaving a path for him to pass through. A martialess dressed in a simple gray robe appeared in front of Lin Jun, looking like an ascetic cultivator. Lin Jun stood up, not knowing why Xiao Se had come. Xiao Se walked in front of Lin Jun and sized up Lin Jun a few times. Then, the corners of his mouth curled up into a sneer. Lin Jun, I have to say that you have been very lucky. Since the start of the competition, you haven't met a real strong opponent yet. Lin Jun smiled. Maybe my luck will continue to be good. Xiao Se waved his finger slightly. No, your luck ends here. The next round is between you and me. You may not know me, but I'm actually a benevolent person. So, I took advantage of the lunch break to come and see if you have any last words. Otherwise, you won't have time to say them after you enter the arena. After saying that, Xiao Se waved to the people behind him. Come and record Lin Jun's words. See if he has any unfulfilled wishes. Record them all. If it involves spending money, I will pay for it. Then he turned to Lin Jun. See how benevolent I am? You must have never met such a benevolent opponent. Lin Jun found Xiao Se's arrogant attitude particularly annoying. However, Lin Jun had to admit that there was a clear gap between his strength and Xiao Se's. Xiao Se's star power exceeded 60 million, and even exceeded that by quite a bit. Moreover, he carried a long sword on his back. It was clearly a spirit artifact, just like his own Sky Slayer. This was the first three-flower warrior that Lin Jun had faced. After Xian Er had advanced to the three-flower realm, he hadn't fought with her. The arena hasn't started yet. Xiao Se, don't be so arrogant. Nicole the dwarf jumped out and shouted at Xiao Se. What an annoying fly. Xiao Se said, and waved his hand at Nicole. A surge of power blasted out. Nicole the dwarf had also entered the immortal realm, but in front of Xiao Se, she was blasted away like a fly. Nicole spat out a mouthful of blood in the air and fell 1,000 meters away. It was unknown whether she was dead or alive. How dare you? Lin Jun was furious. He pulled out his Sky Slayer and slashed at Xiao Se. Even a grain of rice dares to shine. Forget it. Before the start of the competition, I'll let you taste despair. Xiao Se also pulled out his sword and met Nicole's attack head-on. Clang! The loud sound of the collision caused the nearby people to have a splitting headache. They all held their heads in pain. Xiao Se's star power was so strong that Lin Jun didn't know what to do. When his sword met Xiao Se's attack, his Sky Slayer was swung to the side. If it weren't for the fact that his black hole beast body had reached the growth stage, the sword in his hand would have been knocked away. With his sword knocked away, Lin Jun was wide open. Xiao Se's second sword quickly rushed forward. It was faster than lightning, and the sword penetrated Lin Jun's lower abdomen. If it had been an ordinary person, this sword would have definitely been seriously injured or even killed. However, Lin Jun had the immortal spirit body, so this sword couldn't kill him. However, Xiao Se's reaction was incomparably fast. When he saw that the second sword didn't kill Lin Jun, he turned around and slashed again. This sword was aimed at Lin Jun's neck. Even if Lin Jun blocked it, he would at least have to pay with his arms. Lin Jun frowned. It seemed that he had to use his trump card in advance. Even if he was seriously injured, he had to kill Xiao Se. Clang! After another loud collision, Xiao Se retreated. He looked at the person who had suddenly appeared in front of him with a serious expression. Ning Qingxian, dressed in elegant clothes and as beautiful as a lily, stood in front of Lin Jun. The Empress of Southern Liang. Xiao Se exclaimed. The Empress of Southern Liang was indeed an outstanding beauty. Even in a prosperous place like Great Qin, Xiao Se had never seen such a beautiful woman. Compared to the rumors, she was even prettier. However, he never knew that the Empress of Southern Liang was so strong. She was actually not inferior to him at all. Ning Qingxian said with a cold expression, Xiao Se, the battle hasn't started yet, and you're already provoking your opponent. This will disqualify you. Xiao Se's eyebrows twitched a few times. Seeing that there was no chance to make a move, he laughed and said, I was just playing with Lin Jun. I didn't really hurt him. Even if he didn't come, I would have pulled back my sword. After saying that, he turned to Lin Jun and said, I'm sorry, brother hiding behind the woman. I didn't scare you just now, did I? If you're not happy, you can take revenge in the arena. Ha ha ha. Let's go. The group of people came in domineeringly and left with their heads held high, leaving behind a string of infuriating laughter. The surrounding Qin people cheered. In their opinion, if not for Ning Qingshuan's sudden appearance, Lin Jun might have been killed by Xiao Se before he could even enter the arena. Moreover, with state teacher Qian Tong here, Xiao Se would definitely not be disqualified. Lin Jun had been arrogant for so long, and finally met his match. Chapter 772. Long Ju Tian, Qing Su, and the other side as they watched Lin Jun leave with Ning Qingxian. Brother Lin is really a winner in life. Ning Qingshuan's beauty is really amazing. Not only is she beautiful, but she's also very strong. She's a three-flower martial artist. More importantly, she's good to Brother Lin. But what else could it be that she wants to talk to Brother Lin about? Although they envied Lin Jun for having such a lover, they were still worried that Xiao Se had just come over to show off his strength. It seemed that it would be very difficult for Brother Lin to pass this round. There was a 2-hour lunch break in the arena. Only about 10 minutes had passed. Ning Qingxian came over and left with Lin Jun. However, she didn't return to the Alchemist Association headquarters. It would take too long for her to go back and forth. She went directly to a nearby inn and chose a top-notch suite. After entering the room, Lin Jun said in surprise, "Xian you've recovered your strength?" Ning Qingxian smiled, and a blue flower bloomed on top of her head. The flower of energy. You actually condensed the flower of energy? Lin Jun was shocked. The flower of energy on top of Ning Qingshuan's head had completely bloomed. This meant that she had reached the peak of the early three-flower realm. As long as the second flower of energy bloomed, she would enter the middle three-flower realm. Lin Jun, I only completely recovered today. After taking the medicine today, my head hurt a lot. After adjusting my breathing for a while, I actually remembered everything from the past. Ning Qingxian held Lin Jun's hand. I'm very glad that I didn't miss out on you while I lost my memories. Her, hubby. When Ning Qingxian said this with a red face and a heartbeat, Lin Jun hugged her excitedly. That's great, Xian. You finally remembered everything. Yes. Hugging her slender waist, Lin Jun spun around in the air a few times. These past few years of care had finally paid off. Ning Qingxian had recovered her memories, which made him happier than anything else. Stop walking around. I'm here to talk to you about something important. What is it? What do you think about the next battle? Lin Jun's expression turned grave. Xiao Se is very powerful, mainly because his astral power is much greater than mine. I am afraid that I am no match for him if I fight him with normal means. If I want to win, I will have to use my trump card. Ning Qingxian shook her head slightly. I just saw your match list. Do you know who your next opponent will be if you defeat Xiao Se? Lin Jun was stunned for a moment. I've been focusing all my energy on Xiao Se. I really haven't thought that much. Your next opponent is the mysterious black-robed man. No information about this person has been released yet, so no one knows where he came from. However, in my opinion, this person is even harder to deal with than Xiao Se. Oh, why do you say that? Ning Qingxian said solemnly, if I am not wrong, this person is deliberately hiding his means. Although I am not sure what he is hiding, this person is definitely a dangerous person, because I didn't feel any danger when I faced Xiao Se. After all, I'm a warrior of the Holy Land. If we really fight, Xiao Se won't be able to defeat me. However, I'm not sure about that person. Ning Qingxian might have felt that the atmosphere was a bit serious. She smiled and said, but my feeling may not be right. You don't have to worry too much. Lin Jun didn't say anything. It seemed that the road to entering the Holy Land was really not safe. So, don't use your trump card if you don't have to. I think you may have a chance in this battle with Xiao Se. Lin Jun thought for a moment. It will be very difficult. I have checked Xiao Se's information. This person's astral power has reached 61 million. Lin Jun, how much astral power do you have now? 34 million. The difference is too big. If I had 40 million astral power, I might have a chance, but now it is not enough. But I feel that you are about to break through. Lin Jun nodded. I can break through, but there is too little time. If you give me 3 more days, I will have some confidence. Let me help you, Ning Qingxian said. How can you help me? Ning Qingshuan's face turned red as if blood was about to drip out. Have you heard of the dual cultivation method? Dual cultivation? Lin Jun was stunned. Yes, when I was in the Holy Land of the Free City, I once comprehended a stone tablet. I didn't know when I was comprehending it. Later, I found out that it was actually a dual cultivation method. However, the requirements for dual cultivation are very strict. Not only must the male and female divine bodies be compatible, but during dual cultivation, their minds must be completely open. If they don't trust each other even a little bit, dual cultivation will not succeed. During dual cultivation, both the mind and the body must not be guarded. Otherwise, they will not succeed. It is like handing their lives over to each other. Naturally, it is very difficult. Hearing this, Lin Jun took a deep breath. If Xian is willing to give herself to me, Lin Jun will do his best. Moreover, I absolutely trust Xian. But the compatibility of the divine bodies? What do you mean? Although I didn't participate in the Star of God's Punishment, I also have a high-level divine body. Our sect spent a lot of money to get it. It is called the 100-flower body. 100-flower body? Yes, I am born with the power to nourish the divine bodies of flowers. Honey, I remember that you have the snow lotus divine body, right? Lin Jun nodded. Suddenly, his heart was filled with hope. That's good. We don't have much time now. Honey, this is my first time. You have to listen to me and be gentle. Lin Jun did not speak any more nonsense. He directly released a ray of star power and completely isolated the room from the outside world. Then, he hugged Ning Qingxian and rolled onto the bed. Remember, you have to listen to me and follow my instructions. If the dual cultivation is successful, it will be of great benefit to both of us. However, if you're only greedy for pleasure, I'm afraid our efforts will be in vain. Lin Jun quickly took off his clothes and unarmed the beautiful Xian. Ning Qingxian covered her face with her hands. Her body was completely exposed in front of Lin Jun. Looking at the heavenly beauty in front of him, Lin Jun could not help but secretly sigh. The heavens were really treating him well. To be able to have such a stunning beauty, he would definitely reach the peak in this life. He would not be threatened by anything and would firmly hold his happiness in the palm of his hand. Red waves rolled and entangled. Ning Qingxian finally offered her precious first time to Lin Jun. Attention! Now is the time. Lin Jun also suppressed his desire. According to the method taught by Ning Qingxian, he began to adjust his breath and let their star power resonate. At this time, he finally understood why Ning Qingxian said it was difficult. It was because as long as one of them subconsciously guarded against the other, this dual cultivation would not succeed. Only couples like them, who had experienced life and death, could trust each other. Ordinary couples could not do this at all. Moreover, Xian Er's 100 Flowers divine body was indeed amazing. Waves of star power circulated in their bodies. Lin Jun could clearly feel that the snow lotus in his body was actually divided into two under the nourishment of the 100 Flowers divine body. Lin Jun's snow lotus had two characteristics. One was light, and the other was ice. Lin Jun had comprehended the power of light when he was on the Star of God's Punishment. He learned how to attack at the speed of light. This was his capital to fight against experts. If he did not attack at the speed of light, Lin Jun would not be able to withstand a single blow. However, he had not truly grasped the power of ice. Therefore, when he chose his second divine body, he chose the water element. Water was ice, and ice was water. The two types of power gathered in the snow lotus and entangled with each other. Today, with Xian Er's nourishment, Lin Jun's snow lotus had a second flower bud, and it was slowly blooming. The first was a snow lotus of light. The second was a snow lotus of ice. Ning Qingxian also benefited greatly from this dual cultivation. When the two finally could not control their love and merged into one, Lin Jun's pure, true qi entered her body, causing a second flower to bloom above her head. The 100 Flowers divine body was a kind of inclusive body. After absorbing the power of the snow lotus, it became a super divine body. Super divine body. Intermediate 3 flowers. Star force surged back and forth between them. Ning Qing Xian said to Lin Jun, "Husband, it's time to break through to the next realm." Lin Jun also felt it. The star force in his body had been replenished by Ning Qing Xuan's virgin primordialine. He had finally broken through the critical point and was about to break through. The breakthrough this time was not a simple one. First was Lin Jun's realm. Not only had he broken through the barrier of a 5th-level World King, but he had even broken through the barrier of a 6th-level World King, reaching the boundary of a 7th-level World King. With a 7th-level World King, his star force increased by 4 million. This allowed Lin Jun's star force to reach 38 million. And more importantly, the ominous star chart within Lin Jun's body had a 5th star. The Army Breaker star had finally been lit. When Lin Jun lifted the veil of the Army Breaker star, a surge of star force gushed out like a tide, pushing Lin Jun's dantian to expand once more. Lin Jun's ominous star chart was an absolute treasure. The first star, Mars, only had several tens of thousands of star force. The second star, Moon Petal, had nearly 100,000 star force. The third star, 5 Ghosts, had several 100,000 star force. The fourth star, 7 Kills, had over 1 million star force. And this Army Breaker star was even more amazing. His star force had directly reached 5 million. Lin Jun's 38 million star force rose once more, reaching a high of 43 million. But this still wasn't the limit of Lin Jun's star force. The snow lotus within his body changed. When it split into 2, it provided a great deal of help to Lin Jun. At the beginning, a single snow lotus had provided him with 1 million star force. Now that the snow lotus had split into 2, it wasn't as simple as 1 plus 1. Rather, each lotus had provided him with 3 million star force. Like this, Lin Jun's star force increased by another 5 million, reaching 48 million. Star force was the foundation of all martial skills. Even if you were a Holy Land martial artist and learned a powerful martial intent battle skill, if you didn't have a formidable star force to support it, then everything would be like a castle in the air, unable to display its full potential. If one didn't consider martial skills, cultivation methods, and other objective factors, then the person with the strongest star force was the #1 master in the entire universe. Xiao Sei's 61 million star force was 90% displayed by his super divine body, which was equal to 55.9 million. As for Lin Jun's 48 million star force, the difference between them was less than 8 million. Chapter 773. During this dual cultivation, Lin Jun and Ning Qing Xian had obtained great harvests. Lin Jun had originally broken through to the 6th-level World King realm and also lit up the Army Breaker star. His star force was around 41 million points. But after dual cultivating with Ning Qing Xian, he had directly reached the 7th-level World King realm and had also successfully split the Snow Lotus of Light and Snow Lotus of Ice. 48 million points of star force was the strongest star force Lin Jun had ever possessed. Calculating it this way, when he reached the 9th-level World King, his star force would surpass 50 million points. Although Xiao Sei was difficult to deal with, the battle-hardened Lin Jun didn't care. The reason he couldn't use conventional methods to deal with Xiao Sei was because the difference in their star forces was too great. But a difference of less than 10 million points wasn't insurmountable for Lin Jun. Dark gold-level spiritual force swept through his inner world. At the North Pole of the Dark Star, the twin snow lotuses gently swayed. Lin Jun focused his spiritual force on the Snow Lotus of Ice. A thick, cold energy covered it. How cold? The true cold energy of this Snow Lotus is probably close to absolute zero. Although I don't have the time to truly grasp this low temperature, the twin Snow Lotuses can cover their attacks with cold energy. This will definitely have an unexpected effect. After a few simple drills, Lin Jun had a rough grasp of the usage of the cold air. Just like how the limit of a flame was bright blue, the limit of ice was absolute zero. The temperature was -273 15 degrees. The temperature that Lin Jun could control was around negative 220 degrees Celsius, which was already very powerful. Slowly letting out a breath, Lin Jun's eyes fell on Ning Qingxian. Ning Qingxian had clearly just finished her cultivation. She wanted to immediately put on her clothes, but as she felt Lin Jun wake up, she was so shy that she didn't dare to open her eyes. The infinite beauty of her body fell into Lin Jun's eyes. Ning Qingxian, who had transformed from a girl into a woman, exuded boundless charm. Even though Lin Jun was used to seeing stunning beauties, he still couldn't help but feel his heart sway. Xian. His voice was slightly hoarse. Ning Qingxian trembled and buried her head under the blanket. I don't want to listen. Lin Jun smiled and immediately rushed forward. I was only focused on cultivating just now and didn't have the chance to properly experience it. Now let's do it again. No. A loud moan echoed in the room. There were only 4,096 people left in the afternoon's battle. Before Lin Jun and Xiao Sei's battle, there were still a few more pairs of warriors to fight. One had to know that this was already the 9th round of fierce battles. It could be said that there was not a single mediocre person who could reach this step. These warriors came from all over the primordial realm. They were all old monsters who had cultivated for countless years. Every one of them had extremely powerful means and trump cards. They might have held back in the previous battles, but at this moment, no one held back. Let's advance to the 10th round first. Masters with jaw-dropping strength appeared one after the other. First of all, there was a big upset in warrior number 3. The seeded warrior recommended by Qian Tong was actually eliminated by an unknown warrior. This warrior was from the angel race. His name was Michel, and he was a 6-winged blazing angel. However, this blazing angel was different from other angels. He did not have white wings, but a pair of black wings. He was a fallen angel. Fallen angels were the type of angels that deviated from the orthodoxy. However, such angels often had even more amazing potential. Angels were originally a super fighting race. They did not belong to the human race, the god race, or the astral beast race. However, they were born to fight, so they had an incomparable advantage over other races. Michel was at the early stage of the 3-flower realm. His strength was astonishing. The black lightning longsword in his hand was also a spirit artifact. In a head-on clash, he beat the 3-flower realm expert recommended by Qian Tong until he vomited blood and fled. He advanced to the 10th round. As for his opponent in the 10th round, his legs trembled at the sight of him. He had completely lost the will to fight. It could be said that fallen angel Michel was the first cultivator to secure a spot in the Holy Land in advance. Even Jean Nual, who was sitting on the back of the blue whale, looked at him carefully, obviously feeling that this Michel wasn't simply entering the Holy Land. On the other hand, Qian Tong's face was extremely ugly. One of his seeded warriors had been eliminated. After Michel, a few other powerful martial artists appeared out of nowhere. Starting with the number 6, Dongfang Yu, a cultivator from the Great Han Empire, actually eliminated one of Qian Tong's seeded warriors and advanced to the 10th round. Dongfang Yu's weapon was an iron fan, and he was also at the early stage of the 3-flower realm. His previous attacks had been tepid, so when he suddenly showed his full strength, everyone was taken aback. After that, masters like Zhao Lihua also advanced one after another, and their battles were wonderful. After one round, the second round was about to begin, but Lin Jun had yet to appear. Qian Tong's face was extremely ugly. He had originally expected to secure at least 10 spots from the Holy Land, but 2 of his seeded candidates had been eliminated while the rest had already withdrawn. In other words, only 8 of his sect's disciples could advance. Moreover, the competition wasn't over yet, so he didn't want any more accidents to occur. Xiao Sei, only you and Lin Jun have yet to fight in the 9th round. I want you to guarantee that you will advance, understood? Please rest assured, Imperial Preceptor, I tested Lin Jun's strength at noon, and he is definitely not my opponent. Good. It's best if you don't leave him alive. Qian Tong showed a rare, murderous intent. This Lin Jun had made him lose a lot of face, so he wanted to get rid of him. Seeing that the competition had begun, Lin Jun still hadn't shown up. The people around began to discuss. Where did Lin Jun run off to? We've been waiting for this battle. Yes, after 2 days of being arrogant, he finally met someone who could stop him, but he still disappeared. Huh, this time, Lin Jun is really finished. Did you see the video of Xiao Sei and Lin Jun fighting? If it weren't for that beauty suddenly coming to save Lin Jun, I'm afraid Lin Jun's head would have been cut off. That beauty is Ning Qingxian, right? She wouldn't run away with Lin Jun now, would she? Who knows? If it were anyone else, I believe she wouldn't, but Lin Jun is a complete bastard. It wouldn't be surprising if he did something like that. Maybe he's already tens of thousands of kilometers away by now. Hurry up and check if there's any record of him leaving the country. If he runs away, no matter where he goes, we have to catch him. Don't be stupid. This number plate has a tracking effect. He can't run away until the battle is over. Just wait patiently. The people of the state of Qin were desperately slandering Lin Jun, while Lin Jun's supporters continued to stay and cheer for Lin Jun. Although the situation was very unfavorable, everyone's eyes were firm. They believed in Lin Jun and believed that he would create miracles again and again like he did in the new territories. Seeing that the match was about to start and that if he didn't show up soon, he would forfeit, Lin Jun finally arrived slowly. His face glowing with energy, Lin Jun came to the arena and greeted his supporters. I've kept everyone waiting. Long Ju Tian and the others looked at Lin Jun in a daze. They felt that Lin Jun was a little different from before. In the morning, Lin Jun was still a 5th level world king, but after going out at noon, he became a 7th level world king. Although he appeared calm, the joy in his eyes couldn't be suppressed. It was as if he was happier than an ordinary person who had won a lottery. Big Brother Lin has advanced. Why is he so happy? Zhao Xiaoman asked in surprise. Zi Qianxia curled her lips. He's definitely up to no good. Zhao Xiaoman thought for a moment, and then her face turned red. She didn't know why. Boss, so you didn't run away? The dwarf Nicole asked weakly as she was carried over. Seeing Nicole's state, Lin Jun's heart was filled with anger. Xiao Sei had gone too far. Before the battle, he had come to provoke him and even injured his friend Nicole. Nicole and Lin Jun had gone through many adventures together and could be considered old friends. But in Xiao Sei's eyes, he was just an ordinary martial artist, not worth mentioning. Xiao Sei's arrogant attitude had thoroughly angered Lin Jun. How are you feeling now? Lin Jun asked. I'm fine. My skin is rough and my flesh is thick. I'll be fine after a day of rest. But boss, you have to be careful. That boy is too strong. Then you take care of your injuries. Watch me take revenge for you. Nicole nodded heavily. She trusted Lin Jun more than she trusted herself. After they finished speaking, it was time to enter the arena. Lin Jun was sent to the arena. Seeing Lin Jun go up on stage, the audience booed as usual. This time, the people of the state of Qin were full of energy. It was different from the previous rounds. They were not confident before, but this time, they were full of confidence. Lin Jun turned a deaf ear to the boos around him. He looked up at his opponent. The seated contestant recommended by Imperial Advisor Qian Tong, a super expert in the three-flower realm, and the one who had just provoked him. Xiao Sei also looked at Lin Jun, his face full of ridicule. It seems that you understand what I said at that time. You know what you should do before you die. Did you go back and do something with that beauty? Now you can die without regrets, right? Lin Jun pulled out the Sky Cutter Divine Sword. Xiao Sei, I thought you were a strong opponent. I didn't expect you to be just a talker. It seems that I won't have a problem advancing this round. Ha ha ha. Shameless boasting. At the beginning of the Holy Land selection, I said that I wouldn't use more than 20 swords in this battle. So far, I've used 13 swords. If it wasn't for that beauty saving you, you would be a dead man. You'll remember those 3 swords for the rest of your life, won't you? Now, I can tell you that 3 swords are enough to defeat you. Lin Jun smiled coldly. You're quite good at bragging. Take this. He suddenly raised his hand, and a domain appeared. Lin Jun hadn't used the Milky Way domain for a long time. It was a large-scale killing skill, but it was too late to use it in a battle between experts. Now that he had 48 million points of astral power, he could condense dozens of planets in 0.1 seconds with this move. As soon as the domain appeared, All the planets rushed toward Xiao Se at high speed. Milky Way starburst. Countless planets rushed over and exploded. Even Xiao Se had to be careful. He waved his long sword and slashed continuously, cutting down the planets one by one. "Ha! Lin Jun, you're really at your wit's end." Before he finished laughing, Lin Jun sneered. "How many swords have you used?" Xiao Se was stunned, and his face suddenly turned ugly. He had used dozens of swords in an instant. Chapter 774. Lin Jun's attack was very skillful. Xiao Se had boldly declared that he would only use 20 sword strikes before entering the Holy Land. These words represented his strong self-confidence. Not only that, but Lin Jun had just fought with Xiao Se, so he had an understanding of his strength. Xiao Se's words were reasonable. His first few sword strikes were indeed difficult to block. They had the momentum of a thunderbolt. If his opponent was weak, then he could kill them with a single sword strike. If his opponent had some strength, then he could rely on his star force to forcefully deflect his opponent's weapon. Afterwards, his strength and speed would reach the pinnacle, and it would be difficult to block. What Lin Jun needed to do first was to break his opponent's self-confidence. Lin Jun knew that the heavenly river star explosion couldn't harm his opponent, but he still used it. He wanted to be the first to break his promise. In a battle between masters, one's mentality was also very important. Xiao Se's arrogant words had a negative impact on his mentality. Lin Jun attacked with all his strength. As long as he could block the first 3 sword strikes, then he would have already won half the battle. So Lin Jun's first sword strike was his strongest skill, life severing. As soon as life severing came out, space shook. At this time, Xiao Se's eyes were bloodshot. He had also used his full strength in his first sword strike. Although Lin Jun didn't know what sword skill this was, its power was absolutely not below life-severing, or even slightly above it. The two swords collided. Dazzling sparks tore through space, and the entire martial stage shook. A strong force surged towards him. Lin Jun held his sword with both hands and opened his immovable mountain martial intent, forcibly resisting this sword strike. Blood flowed from his hands, blood tumbled in his chest, and the martial stage beneath his feet shattered. But Lin Jun was like a root that had taken root in his body. He forcibly blocked this strike, not taking a single step back. From the beginning of the battle until now, this was the first time that someone had blocked his first sword strike. He hadn't been killed, and he hadn't even been repelled. After his first sword strike failed, he no longer had 100% confidence in his second strike. When his second sword strike came out, Lin Jun used Meteor Fall. With both hands on his sword, the sword light turned into a falling star, meeting Xiao Se's sword once again. It was as if an atomic bomb had exploded between the two of them. Planetary descent was inferior after all. In the face of absolute power, Lin Jun was still forced back. However, even though he retreated, Lin Jun was not injured. When Xiao Se saw that the second sword had finally forced Lin Jun to retreat, the third sword immediately followed up. This time, he used all of his strength. He had not seen Lin Jun for an afternoon, and his strength had actually improved greatly. If the third sword still cannot kill him, he would have to go back on his words, and that would be troublesome. Just as Lin Jun had expected, Xiao Se's 3 consecutive sword moves was something he had learned from a Holy Land martial artist. These 3 swords were not inferior to the power of life extinction. When used consecutively, their power was boundless. Warriors like Lin Jun, who had many fortuitous encounters, could only learn the Taiyuan swordsmanship and the 5 forms of falling stars. As for the Holy Land martial arts techniques, they were all powerful combinations of martial arts techniques. After Xiao Se learned these 3 moves, he, who was originally average, immediately rose to the ranks of experts. It was already a miracle that he could block 2 swords in a row. The third sword slashed out, bringing with it a sword light like a waterfall. Behind the sword light was a long space torn apart, and the energy swallowed and spat as it went straight for Lin Jun. Lin Jun had used life extinction and starfall consecutively. Now, the only thing he could use was Taiyuan. At this moment, Lin Jun gathered all the strength in his body. His astral power exploded, and at the same time, he activated armor transformation. Then, he used Taiyuan to meet Xiao Sei's attack. Taiyuan was slightly inferior to Starfall and Life Extinction. It did not completely block Xiao Sei's attack. Lin Jun was sent flying again, and at the same time, a large wound was opened between his waist and abdomen. Blood splattered across the arena. After Xiao Sei swung the 3 swords, he was panting heavily. These 3 consecutive swords had consumed a lot of his energy. He did not know if Lin Jun was dead or not. Everyone's eyes were focused on Lin Jun in the arena. Is he dead? Seems about right. Even if he's not dead, he's seriously injured. He definitely can't fight anymore. I think I saw a petal flash just now. It should have offset part of the power of the swords for him. He's not dead yet. So what if he's not dead? It's hard to resist 3 swords. Lin Jun is just SOSO. The people of the Qin Kingdom discussed anxiously, wanting to see whether Lin Jun was dead or alive. Ha! Lin Jun slapped the ground with one hand and then propped himself up. The blood at the corner of his mouth had dried up. Lin Jun said to Xiao Sei, who was panting in front of him, "This is your unique skill, right? But it looks like that's all there is to it. It's still far from being able to kill me." What? Xiao Sei's eyes widened. His 3 consecutive swords only caused some injuries to Lin Jun. It did not kill him, and he did not even lose the ability to fight. Damn it. If I learn a whole set of unique skills from the Holy Land, you'll be dead today. It's a pity that you won't learn it after all, and you won't have the chance to learn it in the future. Xiao Sei, there's an old saying in my hometown, once, twice, 3 times will exhaust. You've broken your promise twice, and your spirit has been exhausted. Now it's time for my performance. After that, Lin Jun's injuries had completely recovered. He jumped up from the ground. This time, he did not use the sky-slashing divine sword. With a wave of his hands, 2 swords shot out from his palms and collided with each other, making a crisp sound of gold and iron. Sword intent. You've actually comprehended sword intent and formed astral energy projection? Although they were both sword experts, Xiao Sei had not comprehended sword intent, but Lin Jun had. Ha ha ha. You know your stuff. Watch me this time. Lin Jun rushed up, and the swords in his hands cut through the air. Amidst the buzzing sounds of the swords, Xiao Sei was like a lonely boat in a storm that could be overturned at any time. The courage from the 3 consecutive swords was gone. Faced with Lin Jun's mercury-like attacks, Xiao Sei could only block. At this moment, his 60 million star power did not give him any advantage. Just as Lin Jun said, he was exhausted again and again, and his spirit had been exhausted. He could no longer fully display his combat power. What puzzled him even more was how Lin Jun's star power could be so strong. Although overall, Xiao Sei was not as strong as him, there was not much of a difference. In addition, his opponent's momentum was like a rainbow, and Xiao Sei was forced to retreat. The more he retreated, the farther away he was from victory. Although he had reached the 3-flower realm, Lin Jun had earned a lot of money over the years. He had also fought countless battles in the arena. Some time ago, he had even found a 3-flower martial artist to spar with. With his rich experience, he did not fear a 3-flower martial artist. This was something that only Lin Jun could do. As a Tier 7 alchemist, he did not have a family to support, nor did he have a team to support. All the money he earned could be used for cultivation. If it was anyone else, even if it was a prince, they would not be able to spend as much money as Lin Jun. Martial artists were also built with money. Although Qian Tong was a saint-level alchemist, he had a lot of guests under him. How could he take care of everything? With all these factors piling up, Xiao Sei was already showing signs of defeat. On the back of the blue whale, the Holy Land's 5th senior apprentice brother Jinuo watched Lin Jun fight Xiao Sei with bright eyes. His eyes were not looking at Xiao Sei at all, but at Lin Jun, a 7th-grade world king, and the battle has already reached the 9th round. He might be the only world king left. I really didn't expect this. This Lin Jun, he's a bit interesting. In the VIP stands, Zhu Ziheng looked at Qian Tong beside him. Imperial teacher, it's dangerous. Qian Tong also nodded with a heavy expression. The battle is over. Xiao Sei's spirit has dissipated, and there is no longer any possibility of victory. This Lin Zhen is truly amazing, always able to turn the rotten into the miraculous, completing one impossible task after another. Oh, so Imperial teacher wants to recruit him as a guest. Your Majesty must be joking. This boy is my great Qin's enemy. How could I tolerate him? However, he is just a world king. Even if he enters the Holy Land, he won't be able to do anything. Not to mention, I don't think he will be able to enter the Holy Land. Qian Tong closed his eyes. Zhu Ziheng, who was familiar with him, knew that Qian Tong was truly angry, but he could not do anything to Lin Zhen for the time being. Below the stage, Lin Zhen's supporters were going crazy. People waved their arms crazily and shouted loudly. The loud cheers made everyone else in the state of Qin fall silent. The people of the state of Qin had already accepted their fate. If even Xiao Sei could not defeat Lin Zhen, who could stop Lin Zhen? Perhaps this boy would really enter the Holy Land. There were even some spectators who wanted to leave early, not wanting to see Lin Zhen and his supporters continue to be arrogant. On the stage, Xiao Sei finally crushed the talisman. Although he felt that he could still hold on for a while, it was meaningless. Besides the 3 sword strikes that were his strongest moves, the rest of his moves were not good enough. Moreover, he had investigated Lin Zhen and knew that this boy still had the divine power pill and the black hole beast transformation that he had not used yet. If he could not defeat Xiao Sei, perhaps Xiao Sei would take the divine power pill, and Xiao Sei would be in even more danger. Knowing when to advance and when to retreat, a wise man submits to circumstances. Xiao Sei did not take things too hard. However, this did not mean that he was willing to give up on Lin Zhen. Lin Zhen blocked his path to the Holy Land, and he would take revenge sooner or later. Lin Zhen, let's wait and see. The energy flower on his head bloomed halfway, proving that his realm had not reached the peak of the early stage of the 3-flower realm. The 3-flower realm did not only represent one's realm, but it also had a strong defensive effect. Lin Zhen's sword light slashed the petals like a tidal wave, but there was no way to completely cut them down. This gave Xiao Sei the opportunity to crush the talisman easily. Lin Zhen could barely suppress a 3-flower realm martial artist, but he did not have the strength to easily kill one. Being able to do this was already very impressive. This might be the first time in recorded history that a realm king had defeated a 3-flower realm martial artist in the arena. When the unwilling Xiao Sei was wrapped in a light shield and left, Lin Zhen's supporters burst into thunderous cheers. We won. After passing the 9th round, Xiao Sei, it meant that Lin Zhen had defeated his strongest opponent. Now, there were only 2,048 martial artists left in the entire Holy Land. Half of these people would become martial artists of the Holy Land. They only needed to win one more round. Chapter 775. To many authors, it would be considered an explosion. However, He-Tu did not ask for votes because the 3rd night watch wasn't considered an explosion to me. I felt that even the 4th night watch couldn't be so righteous as to ask for votes. There was no other way. He-Tu was such an honest person. Chapter 776. After defeating Xiao Sei, the Qin people were already in despair. There was still one more round. Although Lin Zhen's opponent had already appeared, the mysterious black-robed man, no one thought that the black-robed man's strength would be above Xiao Sei's. Xiao Sei was considered the number 1 master, starting with the number 7. If even he had lost, then there was no hope. While people were depressed, they also began to doubt the person recommended by the state teacher Qian Tong. Some people even said that Xiao Sei was a deceiving person who didn't deserve to be a seeded player. When Xiao Sei left the arena, some people even rushed over and threw rotten eggs, stones, and other things at him. Everyone was a martial artist, so the things they threw were not small. They were like sniper rifle bullets flying towards Xiao Sei. Xiao Sei was already extremely unwilling to accept his loss to Lin Zhen. He had been suppressing his anger for a long time. Now that he saw these people actually daring to attack him, He could not help but be enraged. In a fit of anger, he actually pulled out his sword to kill. The 3 consecutive swords displayed a powerful might below the stage. Those who attacked Xiao Sei were all beheaded on the spot, without exception. There were no guards in this area, so no one could resist Xiao Sei's furious killing. Even if there were guards, they wouldn't be Xiao Sei's opponent. You bastards, you actually dare to ridicule me? Who threw stones at me just now? Come, come, come. I'll send you on your way. I guarantee that you won't feel any pain. Xiao Sei's eyes were bloodshot. Wherever his sword passed, corpses were everywhere. In an instant, he had killed hundreds of people. Stop him. On the back of the blue whale, Zhu Ziheng and Qian Tong stood up. Qian Tong's heart was filled with anger. This Xiao Sei was too useless. He didn't expect him to be such a sore loser. If he knew that he was such a person, he would have killed him long ago. But the trouble had already occurred, and they were too far away. For the time being, they couldn't stop Xiao Sei from killing. In the distant arena, Lin Jun saw Xiao Sei's crazy actions and couldn't help but frown. If this were any other place, Lin Jun would have stepped down to stop him. But in the state of Qin, no one was friendly to him, so he didn't want to do anything for the time being. Lin Jun did not move. Although the people nearby were also martial artists, in Xiao Sei's eyes, they were not even as good as chickens. Swathes of people fell to the ground. Blood dyed his eyes red, and the tyrannical thoughts in Xiao Sei's heart became more and more intense. He no longer cared whether the person in front of him had mocked him or not. He just wanted to vent the anger in his heart. With a flash, a black shadow appeared in front of Xiao Sei. "You're in my way," the black shadow said to Xiao Sei. "Go to hell." Xiao Sei didn't care who was in front of him. He swung his sword and slashed. The black figure raised his hand, which was wearing a metal glove, and punched Xiao Sei's sword. Bang! After a loud sound, Xiao Sei's first sword was actually blocked. This was an ultimate technique that even Lin Jun's ultimate technique couldn't take advantage of. Yet it was futile. Xiao Sei was infuriated and continued to release the second and third sword strikes. The black shadow only used one hand to block. After 2 clanging sounds, he did not move an inch. Xiao Sei's 3 sword strikes were completely futile. He did not gain any advantage at all. You've gone crazy after losing a battle. You're useless now. The black shadow suddenly shot over, his hands attacking like lightning. In an instant, Xiao Sei's eyes were filled with the shadows of iron hands. In his shock, he desperately swung his sword to block. A series of violent collisions sounded. 1 second. The black shadow released 20,000 attacks in 1 second, ending the battle in 1 second. When he retracted his hand, there was a fiery heart that was still beating in his palm. When people looked at Xiao Sei's chest again, they saw that a large hole had been dug out. His heart had actually been taken away by the black-clothed man. "Useless person, your life is unnecessary. I'll send you on your way." The black shadow squeezed with one hand, and the heart in his hand turned into a pile of meat paste. Xiao Sei saw his own heart being crushed with his own eyes. His entire body lost its will to live at this moment. His eyes dimmed, and he fell to his knees with a thud. So strong. His body fell to the ground. As a 3-flower martial artist, Xiao Sei's ending was extremely tragic. He was defeated in the arena and killed outside the arena. Xiao Sei was dead. No one would care about a dead person, but people were surprised to find that the black-clothed man who killed Xiao Sei seemed to be Lin Jun's opponent in the last round. He's that black-robed man. It's really him. He even has a number tag on his chest. Oh my god, this person is so strong. Xiao Sei can be called the number 1 expert with the number 7, but he was actually crushed to death by him. The difference in strength between them is too big. 3-flower realm. This is another 3-flower realm, and his star power is definitely above Xiao Sei's. Who is this person? This is the first time I've heard of such a strong person. People were talking at once, but the black-robed man turned a deaf ear to them. After killing Xiao Sei, he silently walked to the bottom of the arena and directly sat on the ground, waiting for the last battle to begin. Not only were the others discussing who he was, but the big shot on the back of the blue whale was also confused. They did not know where this black-robed man came from. Although this person had been very strong in the previous rounds of battle, no one really took him seriously. It was not until now that they realized that the real god was here. He blocked 3 sword strikes with one hand and killed Xiao Sei instantly. This person's strength was outrageous. Zhu Ziheng and Qin Tong also asked the people around who this person was, but no one could give an answer. Finally, after checking the information, they found that this person was a martial artist recommended by the Dimensional Universe Corporation. When they checked with the Dimensional Universe Corporation, the reply they gave was that this person was inserted later. They did not know who he was, but he did not belong to the Dimensional Universe Corporation. A person with a mysterious identity and an unknown origin. Jean Nuo stood on the head of the blue whale and squinted at the black-robed man. Others did not know, but in that moment just now, Jean Nuo even had the urge to attack. She felt an unusual aura from this black-robed man. It was somewhat familiar. Suddenly turning around, Jean Nuo looked back at a group of people from the Holy Land on the back of the blue whale and said to a few of them in white, "What are you doing here instead of cultivating on the star-picking island?" The Holy Land's white-robed martial artists were the so-called Holy Land martial artists. They were different from the green-robed servants. When the white-robed martial artists heard Jean Nuo's question, they quickly responded, "Fifth senior brother, we are just here to watch the fun. We have absolutely no intention of causing trouble." Nonsense. If you don't want to be punished, go back now. The 3 white-robed martial artists quickly nodded and immediately stepped on the waves and left. Of these 3 people, one was Machina, and the other 2 were his senior and junior brothers. In front of their chests, there was the word Xian, which proved their identity. They belonged to the Holy Land of Fallen Star Lake, the Holy Land martial artists of the Xian class. Among the 8 classes of heaven, Earth, Xian, Huang, Yu, Zhou, Flood, and Desolate, the Xian class was ranked 3rd. It was already very amazing to be able to study in the Xian class. The 2 martial artists beside Machina were a pair of brothers. They were called Changshan and Chongling. They were both life forms of the Machina race. Machina was originally from the human race, but now he had completely lost his human characteristics. He was very close to the Changshan brothers. As they flew, Changshan suddenly transformed into a small spaceship that looked like a huge scorpion. He let Chongling and Machina into his cockpit. This was the talent of the Machina race. They were born with the talent of being able to transform into a spaceship. Their talent was powerful cannon fire. This kind of long-range attack was enough to kill experts of the same level from other races. However, they were lacking in close combat techniques. That was why they came to the Holy Land to learn. In the cockpit, Changshan's voice echoed. "I almost forgot that 5th senior brother was here. We were discovered." Chongling also let out a long breath. "It's okay. It's all thanks to 5th senior brother. If it was eldest senior brother, we would all be severely punished." Machina also nodded in agreement. However, he then changed the topic. "As expected, we met him. This He Gu's strength really didn't disappoint. As expected of a super expert from the God Ceiling platform, I feel that I might not be able to win against him." Chongling laughed. "Brother Machina, you think too highly of yourself. It's not that you can't win against He Gu, but you will definitely lose. This guy is a deserter from the God Ceiling platform. You're just a disciple from the Profound class. Aren't you just asking for humiliation by competing with him?" "What? You said he's a disciple from the Heaven class?" "Of course. Otherwise, how could he learn the limitless sword technique? When he came to our side, we spent a lot of effort to catch him." Machina nodded slightly. "That's good. Fortunately, I gave him a soul medicine. That's why I was able to successfully control him. Otherwise, it would be easy for this guy to backfire. Don't use control so easily. You must use it at the crucial moment." "I know. I didn't try to control him just now. This guy did it all himself." Changshan, who had turned into a spaceship, said, "You should be relieved this time. With He Gu making a move, Lin Jun will definitely die." Machina's metal mouth smiled. "I also think that Lin Jun has no hope. However, if I don't see Lin Jun die with my own eyes, I won't be at ease." "Changshan, don't go too far. If you go too far, my control will weaken. We still have to try to blend into the crowd. If Lin Jun crushes the talisman and leaves the stage, I will personally control Hey Gu to kill Lin Jun. All right, I was a little careless just now. This time, let's go in another direction. We can't be seen by Fifth Senior. The transformed spaceship turned around and spat out huge waves on the lake. It turned around and headed towards the shore again. We're almost at the shore. Machina, change your appearance. Don't be recognized. With a thought, a layer of skin covered his body, turning him into a human. Changshan also turned into a human. The three of them changed out of their white clothes and pretended to be ordinary spectators as they blended into the crowd. It was already afternoon. The remaining 2048 martial artists were all rubbing their hands and waiting for the competition to start. Chapter 777. Originally, the people of the state of Qin were in despair. Many of the spectators were cursing and leaving the stage. However, when the last black-robed man killed the crazy Xiao Sei, they came back. Lin Jun barely won the battle with Xiao Sei. However, the black-robed man could easily kill Xiao Sei. This meant that Lin Jun was no match for him. The people of the state of Qin reignited their hope. They were looking forward to Lin Jun being eliminated in the last round. Thinking about it, they felt wonderful. Lin Jun had persisted all the way until now. If he was eliminated at the last moment, the people of the state of Qin could finally vent their anger. The crowd, which had been silent for a long time, was stirred up again. Banners were waved. Lin Jun's supporters, who were originally very relaxed, felt their hearts in their throats again. The 10th round of battles began. One by one, the warriors began to prepare to go on the stage. There were no prelude matches in this round. There were only a total of more than 2,000 warriors. Everyone could go on the stage at the same time. Lin Jun, this is the last round. This is the most crucial round. As long as you take down this black-robed man, you will be guaranteed to enter the desolate class of the Holy Land. That's right, Brother Lin. It's fine even if you enter the desolate class. In the future, you'll have the chance to enter the Hong class and Zhou class. As long as you can enter the Holy Land, it's a victory. Lin Jun, don't force yourself. If you think you can't do it, crush the talisman in time. Don't worry because we all bet on you entering the Holy Land. Money can be earned again. You have to be there. Yes. I was wrong. Otherwise, crush the talisman immediately after you teleport up. Just give up this round. The surrounding people were talking at once. They all gave Lin Jun ideas. Lin Jun did not respond. Instead, he closed his eyes and adjusted his state. Obviously, this battle was beyond his ability. The strength of his opponent was beyond his imagination. However, Lin Jun had just dual cultivated with Ning Qingxian. At this moment, his state was almost at its peak. He also wanted to meet this mysterious black-robed man. Losing was not scary. What was scary was not having the courage to fight. Moreover, Lin Jun felt that he might not necessarily lose. Everyone, don't worry about me. Isn't it just a battle? If I win, I'll enter the Holy Land. Just prepare the food and drink and wait for me to enter the Holy Land to celebrate. Hearing Lin Jun's confident declaration, the nervous crowd relaxed a little. Lin Jun was still the same old Lin Jun, always full of fighting spirit, never afraid of any strong opponent. Go, big brother Lin. You have to win. The celebratory wine is waiting for you. Lin Jun waved to the crowd. It was time for the competition to begin. With a flash of light, all 2,048 martial artists were teleported onto the stage. At this time, all the big screens in the streets and alleys of the state of Qin were broadcasting the battle at Fallen Star Lake. Most of them were broadcasting Lin Jun's battle. The reporter was nervously introducing the situation. Fellow citizens of the Great Qin Empire, Lin Jun's battle is about to begin. This person has brought endless humiliation and hatred to the Great Qin Empire. It can be said that we all hope that this person will be eliminated. However, I have to say that Lin Jun is very strong. After defeating Xiao Sei, he has already taken one step into the Holy Land. However, the heavens have eyes. The appearance of this mysterious person has brought us hope. This person has just easily killed Xiao Sei. His strength is definitely above Lin Jun's. In this battle, Lin Jun is already doomed. Now let's watch the battle together. The camera swept across the crowd. The noisy venue had already quieted down. Everyone was nervously watching the big screen. On the blue whale, Jean Nuo looked at the big screen with interest. It was broadcasting Lin Jun's situation. The Empire's emperor, Zhu Ziheng, and his empress were also watching attentively. The imperial preceptor, Qian Tong, was holding a string of Buddhist jade beads in his hand. However, he had already stopped twisting them. Clearly, he was attracted by the battle. The martial artists of the various large factions behind him had already stopped talking. Their eyes were focused on the battle. Lin Jun wasn't just the public enemy of the state of Qin. He was also the only world king-level martial artist in the Fallen Star Lake Holy Land who was still persevering. Of the remaining people, most of them were at the Longevity Realm. A small number of them were at the Three-Flower Realm. If he could enter the Holy Land as a world king, then it would be a rather sensational piece of news. Some people hoped that Lin Jun would win. Some people wished that Lin Jun would immediately die. At this time, if one carefully looked at everyone's expressions, they could easily tell who supported Lin Jun and who hated Lin Jun out of jealousy. After the battle, some people even interpreted the scene. It was obvious that the great Qin Empress supported Lin Jun. In short, the significance of this battle was too great. It involved the hearts of hundreds of millions of people. It wasn't just the state of Qin. Many other places in the primordial realm were also broadcasting this battle. The headlines of the dimensional universe were like this: Lin Jun's crucial battle. Can the state of Qin's public enemy enter the Holy Land? Let's do it here. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Lin Jun had just stepped onto the stage when a figure flashed in front of him. The black-robed man was like a devil from hell, appearing silently. Lin Jun wanted to say something. This was his usual tactic, psychological warfare. He could often find the opponent's flaws or weaknesses. From there, he could find an opportunity to create an advantage for himself. However, after the black-robed man appeared, he didn't say a word. He didn't give Lin Jun a chance to speak. His figure flashed like a ghost and instantly appeared in front of Lin Jun. A dim light flickered in front of him. It was the opponent's iron claws. Lin Jun also saw the opponent's weapon at this time. It was a pair of dark iron claws. They were clearly spirit treasures. It was no wonder that they could block Xiao Sei's sword. The iron claws attacked without the slightest sound of wind. A black light was already in front of him. Open. This was the most crucial battle. If he won this battle, he would be guaranteed to enter the Holy Land. Its significance was greater than any other battle. Lin Jun didn't dare to hold back at all. His first sword was Life Ender, slashing at the opponent's arm. For the first time, the sky's slashing divine sword failed. The slash did hit, but the quality of the other party's metal arm guard was clearly better. Even after clashing with Lin Jun's attack, it was not affected at all. The jet black metal claw was still aimed at Lin Jun's heart. Although there wasn't much momentum, the iron claws gave Lin Jun an extremely dangerous feeling. He actually felt like he couldn't dodge or resist them. Just like Xiao Sei's 3 consecutive swords, he knew that the opponent would attack, but he couldn't block them. This wasn't just a difference in strength. It was clearly a kind of ultimate technique. Xiao Sei had died to this attack. Lin Jun didn't want to follow in his footsteps. He exerted strength in his legs and retreated quickly. The black-robed man quickly followed. The iron claws were less than a foot away from Lin Jun's heart. Teleportation. Interrupted. Spiritual evil spirit attack. Ineffective. Astral infant projection. Lin Jun made a series of moves. Finally, the spear-wielding astral infant appeared and went straight for the opponent's spiritual consciousness. The black-robed man didn't say anything, but Lin Jun could clearly sense a hint of mockery in the other party's voice. He became alert and decisively retreated just as the astral infant was about to approach the opponent. A spiritual bomb exploded in front of the opponent's forehead. If Lin Jun hadn't retreated decisively, the astral infant would definitely have been injured. However, this series of moves didn't affect the cultivator at all. The iron claws that seemed to want to take his life were still getting closer and closer to Lin Jun's heart. Lin Jun didn't doubt that even if he escaped into space, the iron claws would still pass through space and grab him out. Whether it was time acceleration or deceleration, it couldn't interfere with the iron claw's advance. This was a kind of force that could easily break through all force fields. Just this move alone showed that the cultivator's understanding of battle was above Lin Jun's. Seeing that the situation was critical, Lin Jun suddenly shouted, "You're still too naive if you think you can kill me with one move." A green light flashed above his head, and the sword ring appeared. This was the first time the spiritual treasure obtained from the Southern Liang had appeared above Lin Jun's head. After the sword ring appeared, Lin Jun activated it with his astral power, and a halo was released. Just as the iron claws were about to reach Lin Jun's chest, it forcefully pushed them back a little. Lin Jun dodged the attack by a hair's breadth. A series of sparks burst out from the collision between the sword ring's halo and the iron claws. Spatial ripples spread out in circles from the point of contact like water. The fact that it caused spatial ripples showed how powerful the opponent's attack was. That moment just now was extremely dangerous. Lin Jun's body landed on the ground, and a drop of sweat silently slid down his forehead. In just 1 second, he'd made a trip to the gates of hell. The black-robed man also stopped and made a sound for the first time. "Kiki, I really didn't expect you to have such a treasure. It allowed you to live a little longer, but that's all. This old man will now destroy this thing of yours. Let's see what other tricks you have." The black-robed man raised his arm, and the black iron claws on his left hand actually emitted a dazzling light and attacked Lin Jun. The speed was unparalleled, and it directly hit Lin Jun's protective sword ring. The two treasures met in the air, and the black iron claws actually exploded. With a loud bang, Lin Jun only felt the astral power in his dantian vibrate. The iron claws exploded, and it was like a destructive thunder, knocking the sword ring off Lin Jun's head. The iron claws were destroyed, and the sword ring was destroyed. You actually destroyed your own spiritual treasure to destroy my sword ring. I have 2 iron claws, so what if I destroy one? If I want to kill you, 1 iron claw is enough." The black-robed man attacked again, and just like before, the claw went straight for Lin Jun's heart. The sword ring was destroyed just like that, and Lin Jun's heart ached. Seeing his opponent use the same trick again, he couldn't help but feel annoyed. "You really think I'm a pushover? Today, I'll see how strong your move is." Armor transformation. Lin Jun's body swelled, and he turned into a monster. Immovable like a mountain, his feet were firmly nailed to the ground. Sword energy. Sword energy shot out from his hands, and all the astral power was concentrated. Flames. Ice. They covered the 2 sword energies, and a snow lotus bloomed on top of his head. Lin Jun gathered all his strength and attacked the iron claws. Chapter 778. In the face of the black-robed warrior's aggressive attacks, Lin Jun's ferocious nature was also stimulated. The power of ice that he had never used before was also used at this moment. In an instant, the power of ice and fire appeared on the arena at the same time. Ice was a low temperature of -200 degrees Celsius. Fire was a bright green, lethal flame. Only Lin Jun could use this move, making it extremely difficult for the opponent to block. Ice and fire were 2 completely different elements. Even if you could resist the power of fire, you might not be able to resist the power of ice. Because other than Lin Jun, very few people could cultivate these 2 elements to such an extent. Combined with the 2 sword auras, this move was extremely powerful. The black-robed warrior's attack finally suffered a setback. In the face of Lin Jun's ferocious attack, he could only release his star power to block it. As a result, the attack on his hand slowed down. Now that he had a chance to catch his breath, Lin Jun was like a ferocious tiger that had broken free from its reins. He pushed the power of ice and fire to the limit, covering the sword auras as he started to wave them around to his heart's content. At this moment, no matter who his opponent was, no matter what realm he was in, He wanted to release the pressure in his heart to his heart's content. The situation that he was forced into a desperate situation by his opponent was finally reversed. The power of ice and fire filled the arena and actually suppressed the black-robed man. Seeing this scene, Lin Jun's supporters cheered loudly, cheering for Lin Jun. The citizens of the Qin kingdom fell silent again. Could it be that even such a powerful black-robed man couldn't kill Lin Jun? The sound of clashing in the arena was endless, and it was transmitted to all parts of the Yuan realm through the big screen. In the crowd, Machinery, Changshan, and Chongling frowned as they watched this scene. Machinery, something's not right. What's wrong with Egu? He's actually being suppressed by Lin Jun. Yeah, although Lin Jun's elemental power is indeed powerful, Heigu's strength is definitely not limited to this. I feel that he's holding back. Machinery seemed to be a little frustrated. The person who had killed his son was right in front of him, but he could not take revenge. Apart from Heigu's first move, which was stunning, his subsequent moves were all cowardly. He did not display his full potential at all. You two are asking me, but I don't know who to ask. Why do you think he did that? Based on my analysis, I'm afraid Heigu has the intention to escape, Changshan said with certainty. Seeing Machinery look over, Changshan continued his analysis. You can imagine that Blackbone was trapped in Meteor Lake's water dungeon for countless years. It wasn't easy for him to escape. How could he not want to leave this place? Moreover, he's currently participating in the single elimination tournament as a disciple of another Holy Land. He doesn't dare to reveal what he's learned in the Holy Land. Chongling also clapped his hands. That's right. Every martial artist can only learn the martial arts of one sacred land. They are not allowed to go to a second sacred land to learn. If he is exposed, he will definitely attract the attention of Fifth Senior Brother. When that happens, he will be in big trouble. Machinery also came to a realization. That's right. Even if he uses the Holy Land's methods to defeat Lin Jun, he definitely won't be able to leave in the future. Exposing himself is equivalent to courting death. No wonder this kid is unwilling to use the Holy Land's methods. He's only relying on his previous methods to fight Lin Jun. If this continues, it will be difficult for him to win. Changshan snorted coldly. He's dreaming. After consuming the soul medicine, everything will be out of his control. Machinery also nodded. That's right. He's only thinking about escaping after the battle. How can it be such a good thing? When I brought him out of the water dungeon, I didn't plan on letting him live. You're unwilling to make a move, right? Then don't blame me. As Machinery spoke, his thoughts turned. He had already used the soul control technique. There was a protective barrier above the arena that could isolate all external attacks. However, this kind of control that came from the depths of one's soul was absolutely impossible to isolate. Moreover, they were so close to each other. Heigu, who was blocking Lin Jun's attacks, suddenly paused. His body was continuously stabbed several times. The wounds were bleeding, and the energy of the ice and fire was wreaking havoc on it. It seemed that Lin Jun was about to win. The people who supported him below once again erupted into thunderous cheers. However, Lin Jun did not feel surprised. This was because he could clearly feel that this person's eyes had turned red under the black robe. Lin Jun's soul power was incomparably strong. When he saw this person's situation, Lin Jun knew that things were not good. When a normal person's eyes turned this color, it meant that they had lost their nature. This was reflected in their eyes. This person was most likely being controlled by someone. In the battle, just now, Lin Jun had always felt that this person was holding back. Lin Jun still did not understand why. Now, it seemed that there was a lot of inside information. However, at this moment, Lin Jun could not find out who was plotting against him because the black-robed person in front of him had already gone berserk. Go! Use your strongest method to kill Lin Jun in front of you. No matter the cost, use everything you've learned. You must win. If you win, I'll give you your freedom. The mechanical voice kept echoing in Heigu's mind. At this moment, he no longer had any thoughts of his own. The only thought in his mind was to kill Lin Jun. Kill him, and I'll be free. Heigu suddenly let out a beast-like roar. The astral power in his body suddenly surged, suppressing the power of the ice and fire. He pounced on Lin Jun. With a swing of his arm, the other iron claw attacked Lin Jun in a self-destructive manner. Lin Jun swung his sword energy and slashed down. However, the black-robed person took out a long sword from somewhere. This long sword and iron claw were given to him by the mechanical people. They were for battle. The long sword was to prevent accidents so that he could use it to his heart's content. The heaven-class student of the soul-locking platform, the martial artist who had once comprehended the Senluo divine sword, finally displayed his strength. With a wave of the long sword, a wave of Yin energy descended on the stage. When he attacked with the sword, several people present instantly widened their eyes. Holy Land Martial Arts. Definitely a Holy Land Martial Arts. The pupils of Jin Nuo, the fifth senior brother from the Sacred Land, instantly widened. Previously, he had felt that this black-robed man had an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Now that the other party had unleashed his full strength, the black robe also fluttered away, revealing the terrifying face inside. After countless years of wind and frost, this person was already ugly beyond recognition. However, Jin Nuan knew this person. This was actually the soul-locking platform martial artist who was trapped in the water prison. It's Haegu indeed. I was wondering why he felt familiar. Who is it? Who is it that let this guy out and gave him a weapon to let him participate in the arena competition? What were they trying to do? Jin Nuo was so angry that his fingers were trembling. This matter was definitely a stain on the Fallen Star Lake selection. Unless it was someone from the Holy Land, no one else would release a wanted criminal from the Holy Land. With such a person participating, this arena competition had already become unfair. Lin Jun was very strong. Very good. Jin Nuo was more interested in him. Previously, he thought that Fallen Star Lake had another young genius. But no matter how strong Lin Jun was, he was probably not Haegu's match. As such, Lin Jun would definitely not be able to pass this hurdle. Because Haegu was a powerful Holy Land martial artist himself. He was not on the same level as these people who fought bitterly to enter the Holy Land. And facing all this, Jin Nuo was temporarily helpless. The Holy Land's arena protection was set up by Teacher. Others could not interfere with the martial artist battle inside at all. That was to say, before the outcome was decided, even if Lin Jun was killed, he could not interfere. Lin Jun, quickly crush the talisman and come out. This person is not someone you can fight against. Jin Nuo, who had been impartial since the start of the competition, finally spoke up. He had already determined that Lin Jun could enter the Holy Land. Haegu could be disqualified from participating. As long as Lin Jun came out, he would automatically win. However, in the arena, Lin Jun could no longer do all this. Haegu's sword fell. Lin Jun did not even have time to react before his right hand was chopped off. The talisman was still in the palm of his right hand. Haegu's first move had cut off Lin Jun's escape route. The limitless sword technique was one of the supreme martial arts of the four great holy lands. Moreover, when Haegu attacked, 3 flowers bloomed above his head. He was clearly at the peak of the 3 flowers. Lin Jun was definitely no match for the limitless sword technique unleashed at the peak of the 3 flowers. The first sword chopped off Lin Jun's right hand, and the second sword came attacking again. The first sword came out, and the left hand fell. With both arms gone, sword force could no longer be used. Even if Lin Jun had the immortal spirit body, it still needed time to recover. Haegu could definitely turn Lin Jun into ashes before he recovered. Below the arena, Lin Jun's supporters could no longer bear to watch. One by one, they closed their eyes, and tears fell from their eyes. At this moment, the people of the Qin kingdom cheered wildly. They did not care where Haegu came from or whether he would live or die. As long as he could kill Lin Jun, everything would be worth it. Man in black, give him another sword. Chop off his head. Kill, 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 kill him, kill him, kill him. Haegu's face revealed a ferocious expression, and he was about to unleash his third sword. Lin Jun, who had lost both arms, did not accept his fate. He exerted force on his feet and pounced on Haegu. Astral power bloomed all over his body, and he looked like a white dwarf that was about to explode. You want to self-destruct? Let's see if you have the chance. I'll pierce your dantian with my sword, and you won't even have the chance to self-destruct. Haegu's third sword turned into a stab, and it went straight for Lin Jun's dantian. Puffed. The long sword pierced through his body. He won. Machine could not help but throw a punch. Lin Jun's dantian had been pierced. Facing Haegu's ferocious attack, he was doomed. But just when everyone thought that the outcome of the battle had been decided, something shocking happened. From Lin Jun's dantian, a thick thunderbolt shot out. Some of them had seen Lin Jun's divine thunder of destruction before, and they knew that Lin Jun still had something up his sleeves. But no one had seen such a powerful thunderbolt before. The thunderbolt that was thicker than a train blasted out. At this moment, even the sturdy protective barrier of the arena cracked. Lin Jun's body rushed directly to Haegu's body. With his feet together, he locked onto Haegu. Then, the 3-in-1 divine thunder of destruction struck down. The blinding light blinded everyone's eyes. Even through the protective barrier, the earth-shattering sound could still be heard. Chapter 779. This shocking strike shocked the entire scene, shocked the world, and shocked the entire primordial realm. The arena that Lin Jun was in was specially made and abnormally sturdy. But after this bolt of lightning struck, it actually shattered into pieces. From the start of the competition until now, such a situation had never happened before. When the smoke and dust dissipated, what people saw was a pile of broken walls. Heavens, what happened? It actually shattered the arena. Is this still an attack that a realm king can unleash? It's too terrifying. I've been in the longevity realm for 5,000 years, and I've never seen such a powerful strike. It's too terrifying. While people were shocked, they discovered that the arena competition had yet to end. The cameras began moving at high speeds, capturing the situation inside the rubble. Amidst the rubble, they could vaguely see two people still entangled together, but their situation was incomparably tragic. Lin Jun's arms were severed, and his legs were wrapped around the black-robed man's body. The black-robed man was even more miserable. Half of his body had been blasted away, and his head hung limply. He was motionless, and it was unknown if he was dead or alive. Logically speaking, such a situation should have ended the battle, but it had yet to end. This arena was built by the owner of Fallen Star Lake, and the system was also set up by him. If it had not ended, it meant that both parties were still fighting. However, people found it hard to understand. How could two people still be fighting in such a state? It was only when an expert suddenly said, "Their souls are still fighting," that people came to a realization. At the same time, they could not help but feel respect. It was truly inconceivable that they could still fight in such a state. This was already the last hope of the state of Qin's people. From the looks of it, the physical battle had already ended. Although Lin Jun had lost both his arms, he was still stronger than the black-robed man who had lost half his body. Perhaps the black-robed man's soul was stronger and could defeat Lin Jun. The scene was silent as everyone cast their gazes over, waiting for the final outcome of the battle. However, they did not know that this final battle could not be considered a battle at all, but a slaughter. Haegu's strength was very strong, but in terms of soul battles, he was still far from Lin Jun. Lin Jun was indeed heavily injured, but his soul power was still strong. When he felt that Haegu was on the verge of death, Lin Jun immediately used his ultimate skill, Soul Search. After knowing that this person was a Holy Land martial artist, Lin Jun had already made up his mind. The 3-in-1 Divine Thunder of Destruction was Lin Jun's most powerful killing move. If he used it on Haegu, he would definitely be able to defeat him. In Lin Jun's eyes, the other party's soul was the most important. A Holy Land martial artist could only cultivate in a single Holy Land. It was destined that they would never be able to learn the consummate skills of other Holy Lands. Lin Jun had chosen the Fallen Star Lake Holy Land. Then, he wouldn't have the opportunity to learn the cultivation methods of Free City, Twin Tree Garden, and God Sealing Altar. However, this didn't matter. Even if he couldn't learn them, there would always be others who would. Lin Jun could rob others of their memories. This was a most heaven-defying ability. He Gu was a student of the God-Sealing Altars Heaven class. He had many memories, and now Lin Jun wanted to snatch them away. After 3 years in Free City, Lin Jun could already use Soul Search again. When He Gu was on the verge of death, he used it. He Gu's soul felt Lin Jun rob his memories, and he desperately howled in resistance. However, no matter how much he resisted or begged, Lin Jun remained unmoved. The power of the black hole attacked again and again. He Gu had far too many memories. During the battle, He Gu had called himself an old man in front of Lin Jun. He had lived for hundreds of thousands of years, and the impact of his memories was almost unimaginable. His childhood, youth, and adulthood. His progress in realms, his mental journey, entering the World King realm, achieving immortality, entering the Holy Land, advancing to the Three Flower realm. He Gu's knowledge was far too rich, so rich that it surpassed the sum total of all the memories Lin Jun had absorbed. However, what Lin Jun didn't lack the most was willpower. He resisted the swelling feeling in his head and swallowed all of He Gu's memories. He would slowly organize them in the future. No matter how much He Gu resisted, it was useless. When a person's body lost its ability to resist, their soul was nothing but slag in front of Lin Jun's powerful soul and the power of the black hole. They were meat on a chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. The pitiful He Gu had a heaven-shaking ability, a Holy Land's top techniques, and an existence capable of instantly killing Xiao Sei. But now, his memories had been stripped away by Lin Jun, and his body and soul had been destroyed. This was a true extermination. There wasn't the slightest chance for him to revive. Even if time and space were reversed, it would be impossible to save his soul. Countless memories flooded in. When He Gu's last memories were taken away, his soul completely dissipated from the world. The arena martial arts competition had ended. The sound of a system notification rang out. The battle has ended. Galaxy Beast Alliance's martial artist, Lin Jun, is the victor. He has officially obtained the qualifications to enter the Holy Land. Following that, a light flashed. Lin Jun, who had lost his arm, and He Gu, who was completely dead, were teleported out. After they came out, Lin Jun's arm had already recovered. The wound on his dantian had also miraculously healed. This was the might of the immortal spirit body. He Gu thought that Lin Jun was the same as an ordinary martial artist, and that his dantian would be destroyed after being pierced. Unfortunately, in a battle with Lin Jun, if he didn't cut him to pieces or turn him into ashes, he would still have a chance to turn the tables. Although his arm had recovered, Lin Jun's eyes were still tightly shut, and he didn't move at all. Lin Jun's supporters rushed over, wanting to see how Lin Jun was doing. Although Lin Jun had entered the Holy Land and they had won a huge sum of money, no one cared about the money at this moment. They only hoped that Lin Jun would be fine. Entering the Holy Land wasn't the end. Entering the 1024th place only guaranteed a place in the Desolate class. The subsequent elimination rounds were also very important. Winning one round would increase the class's level. Therefore, Lin Jun couldn't collapse yet. However, no matter how much people called out to him, Lin Jun refused to wake up. No one knew that at this moment his mind had suffered the impact of He Gu's hundreds of thousands of years of memories. How could it be so easy to recover? Just as everyone was getting anxious, a faint flowery fragrance entered their nostrils. Ning Qingxian appeared. When she saw that Lin Jun and He Gu were in a predicament, Ning Qingxian couldn't stay any longer. Ignoring her body, which had been tormented by Lin Jun the night before, Ning Qingxian rushed over from the inn once again. When she arrived, she saw the unconscious Lin Jun being teleported out of the arena. Lin Jun! Ning Qingxian cried out in surprise. She passed through the crowd and came to Lin Jun's side. She hugged her lover in her arms. Her big eyes immediately turned red. She called out Lin Jun's name again and again. The people around her made way for her, but their concerned gazes still fell on Lin Jun. Perhaps it was because he felt the familiar warmth, but Lin Jun actually made a move in his unconscious state. He slowly raised a hand and covered Ning Qingshuan's chest. It was just like how he hugged Ning Qingxian to sleep every night. When this happened, Ning Qingxian almost wanted to find a hole in the ground to hide in. If Lin Jun was awake, she would definitely beat him up. However, he was unconscious. What would she do to him? Today's battle is over. I'll bring Lin Jun back first. We'll come back tomorrow. Ning Qingshuan's voice was as soft as a mosquito's. She carried Lin Jun and ran all the way out of the crowd. Behind her, her lover Nicole couldn't help but say, "Boss is too awesome." They weren't the only ones paying attention. Not far away, a white-haired old woman saw Ning Qingshuan's somewhat staggered footsteps. Her face was as gloomy as ice. This was Zhao Lihua from the Greenleaf sect. She was Aunt Tai's master. This time, she also defeated her opponent in an instant and became one of the fastest people to enter the Holy Land. She was experienced in the ways of the world. Naturally, she could see that Ning Qingxian was no longer a virgin. She offended public morals and embarrassed my Greenleaf sect. If I meet that Lin Jun, he will definitely die in my hands. The second day of the Holy Land's battles ended. Too many things had happened in a day. Many popular martial artists had advanced and successfully entered the Holy Land. Of course, there were also strong martial artists who encountered each other. In the end, one of them was eliminated. Sometimes, the path of a martial artist also required luck. However, no matter who it was, Lin Jun's match was more eye-catching. The people of the state of Qin were very disappointed because Lin Jun had finally advanced. No matter how hard the people of the state of Qin tried, they couldn't stop Lin Jun's advancement. However, they weren't completely hopeless. Although Lin Jun had advanced, he was unconscious after he came out. He was carried away by that super beautiful girl. It was very likely that he wouldn't be able to participate in the next battle. If Lin Jun didn't wake up by the time the next battle started, then he would automatically be judged as a student of the desolate class. Entering the Holy Land was already unstoppable. Therefore, it wasn't a bad choice to let Lin Jun become the lowest-ranked student of the desolate class. Although the desolate class was also a martial artist of the Holy Land, the things they learned were limited. They were stronger than ordinary martial artists outside, but not by much. That night, countless martial artists prayed to God and Buddha. They prayed that Lin Jun would never wake up. That night also became the busiest night. Those who were eliminated all chose to return to their hometowns. There was no point in staying any longer. On the other hand, those who advanced cheered. Being able to enter the Holy Land in such a grand occasion was already enough to prove that they were outstanding enough. At the same time, Free City, Twin Tree Garden, God's Sealing Altar, and a few other holy lands also finished their selections. Countless geniuses stood out. However, this time, the Holy Land's fifth senior brother, Jin Nuo, didn't look too good. It was because of He Gu. He would slowly investigate who released He Gu. At the same time, he wanted to ask Lin Jun about his battle with He Gu. Perhaps Lin Jun would know something. However, Lin Jun was now unconscious. He couldn't go over and talk to Ning Qingxian. He could only hope that Lin Jun would wake up tomorrow and participate in the competition on time. Chapter 780. Ning Qingxian brought Lin Jun back to the inn and placed him on the bed, patiently waiting for Lin Jun to wake up. Lin Jun was currently clearing his memories of He Gu. Other than cultivation, He Gu did not have any other highlights in his life. Lin Jun automatically drove away all the schemes and tricks and things like playing with women. She only kept the things that were useful to her. What He Gu wanted to learn the most was naturally martial arts. He could be said to be a martial arts maniac. In the 100 years he spent in the God Sealing stage, he learned many unique skills. Among them, He Gu knew 3 sets of martial arts like the Taiyuan sword technique. There was also the mental power control technique that Lin Jun wanted to learn but did not have the time or opportunity to do so. There was also the move that he used to lock onto Lin Jun. However, this move was not a sacred ground martial art, but He Gu's own comprehension. Other than that, there was also the strongest unique skill, which was the limitless sword technique. The limitless sword technique was divided into 4 parts, which were located in the 4 sacred grounds. Haegu learned the limitless sword technique in the God Sealing stage, which was his biggest gain in the past 100 years. One must know that even among the Heaven class students, those who could learn the limitless sword technique were as rare as phoenix feathers and Sheelan horns. The more one learned this sword technique, the more powerful it would be. If one could learn another set, the power would double. There was even a legend that after learning all 4 sets of the limitless sword technique, one could kill a god. Of course, this was only a legend. No one knew if it was true or not. After learning the God Sealing stage's sword technique, Haegu wanted to learn the other 3 sets. For this, he did not hesitate to take the risk to come to Fallen Star Lake. In the end, he was captured and locked in the water prison for thousands of years. After absorbing the last part of the memories, Lin Jun finally knew where Haegu came from. It was the Mechanical Realm King's doing. This person was Yi Hua's father. Lin Jun killed Yi Hua in the New Territories, so he naturally wanted to avenge his son. And the person who instigated the Mechanical Realm King was actually Ku Xiangnan from the Kirin clan. These people really don't want to give up. They won't give up until I'm dead. Unfortunately, I've disappointed them again. This time, I've entered the Holy Land, and I have many opportunities to meet the machinists. As for Ku Xiangnan, we'll settle the score sooner or later. After an entire night, Lin Jun finally absorbed Haegu's memories the next morning. As long as he was familiar with it, Lin Jun would be able to use Haegu's martial arts. If he used Haegu's Holy Land martial arts, Lin Jun was confident that he could go far in the following battles. Unfortunately, Lin Jun couldn't do that. This was because he had no way of explaining how he had learned the Holy Land's martial arts. If he was discovered, he would be in big trouble. However, Haegu's power-seizing strike could still be used. It was not a part of the Holy Land's martial arts. However, as long as he entered the Holy Land, Lin Jun would have no problem using these things. It could be said that he had comprehended them himself. After absorbing the memories and removing the useless parts, Lin Jun naturally woke up. The injuries on his dantian and arm were completely healed. When he opened his eyes, he saw Ning Qingshuan's worried and tired face. Seeing Lin Jun open his eyes, Ning Qingxian was overjoyed. Lin Jun, you're awake. Lin Jun sat up. What time is it? There's still more than an hour before the 3rd day of the competition begins. I was worried that you wouldn't wake up. Lin Jun, you've entered the Holy Land, do you know? Lin Jun nodded. He turned over and pressed Xian air under his body. Should we do something to celebrate? Why did you just wake up? No, we don't have time. It's okay. Let's get on the demonic dragon's back. Don't be idle on the way. Ning Qingxian, who had always followed the rules, was so shy that she almost fainted. When had she ever been so absurd? Now that she had given herself to Lin Jun, she was being led astray by him. However, in front of Lin Jun, Ning Qingxian could not resist at all. When he kissed her passionately, she became dizzy and her body went soft. Then, Lin Jun picked her up and walked out. Lin Jun was in high spirits. He had finally entered the Holy Land. It could be said that he had completed the most important step. There was a carriage on the 2-headed demonic dragon's back. There was even a big bed inside. Lin Jun walked in with Ning Qingxian. When Ning Qingxian went in, she warned the 2-headed demonic dragon that if it dared to look or listen, she would definitely kill it and make it into a hot pot. Unfortunately, the 2-headed demonic dragon was a demon beast that could not transform. When it was threatened by Ning Qingxian, the great demon king, it did not have any temper at all. The goddess cried softly under Lin Jun's body and slowly flew towards the fallen star lake again. Some of the dragon carriages passing by saw the 2-headed demonic dragon from afar. They saw the huge demonic dragon's body shaking at an extremely fast frequency. Some people who understood the situation could not help but secretly raise their thumbs. The owner of this dragon carriage was awesome and strong. Today, the number of people at the Fallen Star Lake did not decrease significantly. Today was the 3rd day and also the last day. On this day, there would be 7 rounds of elimination matches to determine the students of the 8 classes: Heaven, earth, black, yellow, universe, and chaos. This time, the people who started the gambling did not make much money. The main reason was that Lin Jun supporters had bought a lot of money to bet that Lin Jun would enter the Holy Land. Everyone had made a fortune. Therefore, today, regarding the unknown factor of Lin Jun, the cautious casino did not set high odds. However, after Lin Jun entered the Holy Land, although the attitude of the people of the state of Qin towards Lin Jun did not change, they became much more cautious. They began to take Lin Jun's strength seriously, especially after the shocking divine thunder yesterday. Some people even predicted that Lin Jun had the strength to enter the heaven class, if his divine thunder could be used infinitely. However, many people refuted this point of view. That kind of attack was obviously beyond one's strength. If it could be used infinitely, then Lin Jun would have crushed all the way and would not have to fight so hard. This kind of attack should be a one-time use, at least for a short period of time. On the third day, the drawing of lots was messed up and no longer numbered according to the number. Everyone's number was thrown into a box that blocked all spying. Reaching in, the number would be the number. Now that the big box was ready, they were just waiting for the drawing of lots to decide the order of battle. Now, the more than 2,000 martial artists were practically all in high demand. Many forces had begun to recruit them. Some small countries even directly extended an olive branch, saying that as long as anyone changed their nationality and joined their country, they were willing to recruit with the position of state preceptor, give them land, and a huge amount of wealth. However, very few warriors were moved by these things. Everyone came to the Holy Land because they were strongly recommended by their country. Without enough bargaining chips to move them, very few people would betray them. At this point, there were not many things that could move them. Even Lin Jun, the public enemy of the state of Qin, was recruited by many countries. Not only small countries, but even some large empires had started to recruit Lin Jun. Mr. Lin Jun, I hope you can consider my suggestion. The Great Jin Empire is willing to give you 10 counties as your fief. We will also grant you the position of prince, whose power is only under His Majesty. We will also give you the right to recruit guests, as long as you agree to change your nationality in the dimensional universe. Seeing that Lin Jun did not say anything, the Jin Empire's messenger continued. We think you are the biggest dark horse in this Holy Land selection. Others who enter the Holy Land are at least in the immortality realm. Only you are a world king. It can be seen that your potential is great. If you think the conditions are not enough, we can talk about it again. Okay, I will think about it. If I think about it, I will contact you. The messenger of the great Jin Empire left reluctantly. Lin Jun rubbed his forehead, feeling a headache. He had already sent away the 6th wave of messengers. In fact, the country of Southern Liang was meaningless to Lin Jun. The country was not strong and was quite hostile to him. It was not his hometown. If there was a good place, he could change. However, the things given by these messengers were not what Lin Jun wanted. It was better not to change. At least his reputation would be better. There were many messengers in the dimensional universe who wanted to recruit Lin Jun, but Lin Jun was rejected one by one. Don't think too much. Focus on preparing for the war. As long as you break through the desolate class, it will be considered a success, Ning Qingxian whispered to him. The two of them were in the supporters team. Now that his old friends were familiar with Ning Qingxian, they could communicate with each other. Ning Qingxian was usually a very cold person, but now she was very polite, smiling and talking to others. With her appearance and personality, she quickly became friends with Zi Qianxia, Zhao Xiaoman, and the others. Zhao Xiaoman even called her sister-in-law. Ning Qingshuan's face was slightly hot, but she did not refuse this title. Ever since she dual cultivated with Lin Jun, she knew that Lin Jun completely trusted her and loved her. This feeling was definitely not fake. It was only a matter of time before they became husband and wife. It was not even important whether they were husband and wife. As long as they recognized each other in their hearts, it was fine. Lin Jun smiled at Ning Qingxian. I'm not in a hurry. Those are all trivial matters. I know where the main point is. Well, don't worry about your identity as Southern Liang. Everything is according to your wishes. Before Lin Jun could reply, a voice suddenly sounded. You are indeed a shameless person. Southern Liang has nurtured you for many years. Don't you have any attachment to your country? If you are ungrateful and leave Southern Liang, everyone will kill you. The voice belonged to a woman. She was very old and cold. When Ning Qingxian heard this voice, her body trembled slightly. Grandmaster. Ning Qingxian raised her head and looked at the old woman standing not far away. It was Zhao Lihua of the Greenleaf sect. To be able to teach a disciple like Aunt Tai, Zhao Lihua could be imagined. She was dressed in a brown robe. Her face did not look particularly old. Just by looking at her face, she looked to be in her 40s or 50s. However, with her expression, clothes, and white hair, people would believe that she was in her 70s. Of course, she was far older than 70. She held a bamboo cane in her hand and stood in front of the two. Chapter 782. Facing Zhao Lihua's angry rebuke, Ning Qingshuan's pretty face immediately turned pale. In her bones, she was still a girl who followed the rules. Perhaps she had only been willful once in her life, choosing the love she wanted and the person she liked. In the battle between Lin Zhen and Tai Gupa, Lin Zhen won. However, Ning Qingxian instinctively did not want to avenge Tai Gupa. Even when she lost her memories, she could not get close to her master. Later on, when she regained her memories, she hated Qing Yi Sec's soul-subduing technique and soul-chasing bell. Luckily, Lin Zhen's alchemy skills were amazing and completely cured her. As a result, she did not want to avenge Tai Gupa and completely threw herself into the arms of her sweetheart. However, in her heart, this matter was not over. She still had a worry, and that was Zhao Lihua in front of her. Zhao Lihua was already considered an ancient figure. Ning Qingxian had seen her once when she was young and felt that this grandmaster had a strange temper. She was so cold that it was a little scary. Facing Zhao Lihua, she was even instinctively afraid. Just as she was about to explain, Lin Zhen suddenly blocked Ning Qingshuan's path. Old granny, why are you shouting at my wife? Ning Qingxian felt sweet in her heart. This feeling of someone helping her was really good. Seeing Lin Zhen step forward, she immediately shrank behind Lin Zhen and did not look at her grandmaster anymore. Zhao Lihua glared at Lin Zhen. Her eyes were more white than black. She said disdainfully, "Who do you think you are? You brat who stinks of milk, scram." Lin Zhen immediately retorted, "Then who do you think you are? You're an old beggar with a rotten smell and a serious endocrine disorder. If you lack the nourishment of an old man, I can introduce you to one. Don't come here and let others see your sinister old face. I feel like vomiting." Zhao Lihua was the person with the highest seniority in the Greenleaf sect. In the entire Southern Liang and even the entire Great Liang, no one dared to disrespect her. She had never heard Lin Zhen insult her so directly to her face. He was so angry that his whole body trembled. He pointed at Lin Zhen. "Scoundrel, do you know who I am?" "Of course I know, you old fart from the Greenleaf sect. However, you shouldn't use your status to show off. Xian, who doesn't owe your Greenleaf sect anything. Hasn't your soul-chasing bell tortured her enough?" From the moment her master used the soul-chasing bell on her, she was no longer a member of your Greenleaf sect. You don't have a right to tell her what to do. Zhao Lihua was so angry that she couldn't even speak properly. "How dare you to actually dare to speak to me like this? Why wouldn't I dare? No matter what your status is, you're just a disciple of the Holy Land here. I'm also a disciple of the Holy Land. We're currently on the same level. After the competition, you still have to call me senior brother. What right do you have to shout in front of me?" Zhao Lihua's anger reached its peak as she shouted, "I'll kill the both of you. I'll clean up the Southern Liang and Greenleaf sect." Lin Zhen snorted coldly. Although Zhao Lihua was very strong, Lin Zhen wasn't afraid because this was the Holy Land. As expected, just as Zhao Lihua was about to attack, a voice suddenly sounded. "The competition is about to begin. No one is allowed to fight. Those who don't obey will be eliminated." A powerful force enveloped Zhao Lihua and sent her flying 100 meters away. Above Zhao Lihua's head, the essence, qi, and spirit flowers were trembling nonstop. Her opponent had shown mercy this time. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been as simple as sending her flying. She turned around in shock and saw the Holy Land's fifth senior brother, Jean Noir, standing on the water column spurted out by the blue whale. He stood with his hands behind his back and looked at her coldly. Although Zhao Lihua was arrogant, she didn't dare to act wildly in front of the direct disciple of the Fallen Star Lake's owner, especially when she felt that the other party's strength was unfathomable. Fifth senior brother, I was reckless. Zhao Lihua had no choice but to submit. What are you waiting for? Back off. Jean Nua's calm voice sounded. Zhao Lihua glared fiercely at Lin Jun and Ning Qingxian. Brat, don't meet me in the elimination competition. After saying that, she turned around and left. The elimination competition after the Holy Land was no different from the previous ones. Winning a round would allow one to advance to the next class. Every class had to learn different things. The higher the ranking of the class, the higher the level of the stone tablet they could comprehend on Picking Stars Island. The students of the Desolate class could only comprehend one stone tablet. The students of the Flood class could comprehend 2 stone tablets, and so on. The Heaven class could be said to be everyone's ultimate goal. There were 8 stone tablets that contained profound martial arts techniques. As long as one could truly learn one of them, they would be able to look down on their peers. Moreover, the most outstanding of the Heaven class could even be fancied by the Holy Land's owner and be recruited as a direct disciple. Every direct disciple of the Holy Land had a high status. Just look at the Holy Land's 5th young master, Jean Noir. Whether it was the state of Qin's emperor, state preceptor, or other people from the Dimensional Universe Corporation, they all maintained a certain level of respect for him. Therefore, every battle had to be fought as if it was the last battle. At this point, the remaining warriors were all elites. If they weren't elites, they wouldn't have been able to achieve 10 consecutive victories. The drawing of lots began. Everyone started to draw small balls according to their order. One by one, the warriors started to go up the stage. Lin Jun was in the latter half of the group according to his number. After going up the stage, he reached into the box and quickly took out a small ball. There was a big screen in front of him. After Lin Jun took out the small ball, he formed a match with one of the people who had finished drawing. Warrior Lei Ba from the Dimensional Arena, a martial arts king from the Immortal Field. The so-called martial arts king was someone who had achieved more than 10,000 victories in the Immortal Field and had a winning rate of at least 99%. If these 2 conditions were met, one could become a martial arts king. With Lin Jun's current strength, although he could occasionally rely on some special methods to fight against the 3 flowers, he wasn't invincible in the immortal stage. The immortal martial arts king was definitely a formidable opponent. Seeing that the groups were completed, Lin Jun and Lei Ba's eyes met in the air. Lei Ba was more than 2 meters tall. His burly body was like a small mountain. He had 4 arms and 4 golden sledgehammers on his back. Seeing the groups, the dwarf Nicole ran over. Boss, this opponent isn't easy to deal with. He had a 10-match winning streak in the previous battles. Lin Jun chuckled. Of course, of those who can reach this stage, who doesn't have a 10-win streak? Oh, no, that's not what I meant. What I meant was that this warrior had a 10-match winning streak. The previous 10 opponents all died. Oh, he's so strong. Lin Jun was also shocked. It wasn't strange to be able to defeat the opponent, but to not give the opponent a chance to escape. Such an opponent was quite terrifying. He's indeed very strong. Since this person started cultivating, he has always been in the arena. He makes money in the arena and invests it into his cultivation. His combat experience is incomparably rich. Moreover, he was born with 4 arms, so his attack frequency is twice as fast as the average person. Also, his 4 sledgehammers are extremely powerful. No matter if it's a sword, a spear, or a halberd, nothing can compete with his sledgehammers. This is the key to his victory. You have to be careful. At this time, Ning Qingxian also showed Lin Jun a video of Lei Ba's previous battles. In these 10 battles, it could be said that he crushed all the way to victory. At the beginning of the battle, Lei Ba began to charge. The sledgehammers in his 4 hands danced like windmills. The opponent's weapons couldn't stop the sledgehammers at all. The wind couldn't blow in, and the water couldn't splash in. Moreover, his mental defense seemed to be very strong. He wasn't afraid of mental attacks. As soon as the opponent came into contact with him, their weapons would be swept away or sent flying. Under his super-fast attacks, they didn't even have time to crush the talisman before dying tragically under the sledgehammers. For sledgehammers with super-fast attack frequency could only be described as unstoppable. Even if your attack speed was a little faster than his, who didn't have 4 arms. Even if your weapon was good, you couldn't block the bombardment of 4 sledgehammers. Rolling attacks, crazy attacks. This was Lei Ba's tactic. This person had already fought more than 60,000 battles in the immortal stage of the dimensional arena and lost less than 100 battles. He was definitely at the peak of the immortal stage. He didn't expect to encounter such a tough opponent in his first battle. How is it? Are you confident? Ning Qingxian asked with concern. I have some ideas, but I still have to fight. Xianair, don't worry. He won't be able to crush me and win. That's good. Lin Jun, I think that if you can win this battle, you'll have basically completed your mission. Xianair, what kind of result do you think I should get? Of course, the higher the better. However, I don't think you should force it. If you can enter the yellow class, that's enough. Heaven, earth, black, yellow, and universe, desolate. In fact, there was another saying in the Holy Land. Only those who were heaven, earth, and yellow could be considered as the inner sect of the Holy Land. Those who were desolate could only be considered as half a disciple of the Holy Land. If they wanted to learn the real skills, they had to enter the top 4 classes. Therefore, Ning Qingxian set Lin Jun's goal of entering the highest yellow class. Of course, if Lin Jun could display the spirit-sealing platform's Holy Land martial arts to his heart's content, he felt that it was possible for him to enter the earth class or even the heaven class. It was just that he couldn't go all out now. All right, since Xianair said so, I'll work hard for the yellow class. While they were talking, the lot drawing had already finished. The first round of the arena was about to begin. The teleportation light flashed, and Lin Jun appeared on the arena. Opposite him, Lei Ba, who had 4 arms and a body like a barbarian, also appeared. Lin Jun, your experience can be considered legendary. However, in my opinion, everything you're proficient in is just for show. Compared to the real experts of the arena, you're still far from it. Lin Jun also looked at Lei Ba with disdain. Do you think the arena is a real training ground? I don't think so. In a battle in a virtual environment, people are often able to display strength that surpasses their own. However, this is the real world. You, who have been fighting in a virtual environment for a long time, are just trash in the real world. Nonsense. You're just a little over 1,000 years old. How can you compare to my 70,000 years of battle experience? Die. You'll be the 11th soul under my hammer. Lei Ba coldly snorted. He pulled out his 4 golden war hammers at the same time. With a loud roar, he charged forward. Chapter 783. Lin Jun was always able to refresh people's understanding. Before the battle, the general analysis was that Lin Jun would be completely suppressed. It was not an exaggeration to say that the martial king in the arena had experienced hundreds of battles. It was not an exaggeration to say that he had experienced hundreds of millions of battles. How old was Lin Jun? Even if he fought in his mother's womb, he would not be Lei Ba's match. However, the actual battle scene was completely different from the previous one. Lin Jun's sword aura was not material, but it was extremely destructive to the human body. Moreover, when facing the opponent's 4 golden hammers, it could immediately reform after being scattered. It was not affected by the opponent's heavy weapons at all. Moreover, Lin Jun's battle experience seemed to be above Lei Ba's. In the process of the 2 fighting, Lin Jun's grasp of the battle situation was obviously more outstanding. As time passed, he actually completely suppressed Lei Ba. Lin Jun was a battle genius. In addition, he had already absorbed the memories of several people. It could be said that he had experienced more battles than anyone present, especially Hegu. He was a martial artist who was even purer than Lei Ba. His battle experience and methods far surpassed Lei Ba's. Even in terms of star power, Lin Jun's current star power of 48 million was definitely outstanding in the immortal realm. Lei Ba did not have any advantage when compared to Lin Jun. The others were very curious as to why this Lin Jun was getting stronger the more he fought. Looking at his current battle methods, he was not just a little bit stronger than when he first started. However, Lin Jun could not possibly explain anything. As the battle progressed, he had already gradually merged and absorbed the memories. He completely controlled the situation on the battlefield. He even began to use Lei Ba to practice. Every time Lei Ba's golden hammers shattered Lin Jun's sword aura, he felt helpless, as if he was using an anti-aircraft gun to kill a mosquito. In the past, relying on his powerful strength to blow away his opponent's weapon was no longer feasible. This caused him to fall into an extremely passive situation. Regardless of whether it was a surprise attack, an opening, or a frontal attack, these battle methods were no longer feasible in front of Lin Jun. After the battle continued for 10 minutes, Lei Ba finally made an unexpected move. Crush the talisman and admit defeat. Lin Jun, it's not that I'm afraid of you. It's just that your fighting style completely restrains me. Wait until I go to the Holy Land and learn some new skills, then I'll come and compete with you. With a flash of light, the system announced that Lin Jun had won and was promoted to the Hong class. Lin Jun left the arena, his heart calm. After absorbing He Gu's memories, his strength had risen to a whole new level. If he had been allowed to use the Holy Land martial arts to his heart's content, the battle would have ended long ago. Lin Jun could now say that in the face of a longevity martial artist, as long as it was not a martial artist from Holy Land, he already had no opponent. Lei Ba, who everyone had high hopes for, was eliminated just like that, causing the people of the state of Qin to be greatly disappointed. The 1,024 martial artists became 512. Now, everyone could see that an immortal warrior would not be able to stop Lin Jun's progress. If they wanted to eliminate Lin Jun, they would have to be a 3-flower warrior. However, there were very few 3-flower warriors among the contestants because most of them were already very old and had participated in the Holy Land selection. If Lin Jun wanted to encounter a 3-flower warrior, it would still depend on luck. After defeating Lei Ba, Lin Jun's luck was very good. In the second round, he met another longevity martial artist. This person's strength was about the same as Lei Ba's. In terms of star power, he was even inferior to Lin Jun and was easily defeated by Lin Jun. After another round, there were only 256 martial artists left. Lin Jun was no longer a student of the Hong class, which meant that he had obtained the qualifications to enter the Ian class. In the third round, Lin Jun's luck was off the charts again. The martial artist he met was even weaker than Lei Ba and was still in the longevity realm. There was still no suspense. Lin Jun easily won and entered the 128th place. 128th place, he was a student of the U class. The people of the state of Qin watched in despair as Lin Jun advanced again. Their hearts were already numb. Looking at the list of people who advanced, more than half of them were 3-flower warriors. There were less than 50 longevity martial artists. As for Lin Jun, the Lone Realm King, he was incomparably eye-catching. We absolutely can't let him advance again. This time, Lin Jun will definitely draw a 3-flower warrior. Yeah, there are only 40 or so immortals. I don't believe his luck will be that good. Everyone's eyes fell on the drawing of lots. In order to prevent artificial control of the battles, the next round would be drawn after each round. Under everyone's gazes, Lin Jun took out another small ball from the box. This round's drawing wasn't bad. Lin Jun's opponent was indeed a 3-flower warrior. Moreover, he was an honored guest under the state teacher Qian Tong. Of all the honored guests under Qian Tong, after several rounds of elimination, only 2 remained. One of them was particularly strong, Yin Tianhua. Qian Tong even hoped that he would enter the Heaven class. He was the number 1 seed. The one Lin Jun was facing now was called Sha Ping. He was at the peak of the early stage of the 3-flower realm. His strength was not bad, but in the 4th round, Lin Jun was able to draw such a lot. After the drawing of lots ended, Lin Jun breathed a sigh of relief. His luck was indeed not bad. On the back of the blue whale, people were discussing the battle. State teacher Qian Tong held a small gray mountain in his hand. It looked small and exquisite like a toy. Zhu Ziheng and Qian Tong chatted, occasionally glancing at the small mountain in Qian Tong's hand. This was Qian Tong's treasure. It was said that a star fell into Fallen Star Lake. It was very high quality and very dense. It was refined into this shape by a super refiner. Under the stimulation of star force, this small mountain had the weight of a planet. It was extremely magical. Qian Tong had exchanged the Saint Grade pills he refined for this. Zhu Ziheng wanted to borrow it to play with, but Qian Tong refused, showing how much he cared about it. While they were discussing, the drawing of lots ended. Seeing that Lin Jun was drawn again, Qian Tong's face turned ugly. Lin Jun had already eliminated 2 of Qian Tong's honored guests and could be said to be a thorn in Qian Tong's side. Qian Tong didn't know if his honored guests would be able to live up to his expectations this time. However, it seemed that his chances of winning weren't particularly high. The current Lin Jun was somewhat unpredictable. Every time Qian Tong thought he was like this, he would always surprise others. The 4th round of battles began. This was also the last battle of the morning. After this round, there would be a break. Lin Jun versus Xia Ping. This battle lasted for half an hour. It could be said to be an extremely long battle. Xia Ping was also very depressed. His strength was about the same as Lin Jun's, and he was even a little bit stronger than Lin Jun. However, this was only a little bit. He didn't have the strength to instantly kill Lin Jun. Lin Jun's ability to resist attacks was too strong. Several times, Xia Ping had seriously injured him, but he was still alive and kicking. Rather than saying that Xia Ping lost to Lin Jun, it was more accurate to say that he lost to Lin Jun's extraordinary endurance. Half an hour later, Xia Ping was somewhat exhausted and was finally defeated by Lin Jun. He crushed his talisman and withdrew. At this point, Lin Jun safely passed through the 4 rounds of challenges in the morning and entered the yellow class. As for the remaining warriors, there were only 64 of them left. After Lin Jun entered the yellow class, Ning Qingxian and Lin Jun supporters all let out a long sigh of relief. Entering the top 4 classes could be said to have accomplished the ultimate goal they had originally set. Ning Qingxian was perfectly satisfied. After the 4th round of battles ended, the 5th round immediately began. Of the 64 people, 60 were 3 flower martial artists, 3 were longevity martial artists, and 1 was a world king. Lin Jun had no chance of drawing longevity martial artist. Moreover, his good luck seemed to have run out this time. He had finally drawn a strong opponent. He was also a guest elder under the Imperial Scholar, and also the Imperial Scholar's only guest elder, Yin Tianhua. Seeing Lin Jun draw this lot, the entire Fallen Star Lakeside erupted with heaven-shaking cheers. The people of the state of Qin clapped their hands, flicked their crowns, hugged each other, and bumped their heads together. All sorts of etiquette were used at this moment to vent their excitement. What kind of person was Yin Tianhua? He was a super expert recommended by the Imperial Scholar. People had even identified him as one of the contenders for the Heaven class. In this battle, the 16 people in the Heaven class and Earth class received the most attention. Based on their performance in previous battles, people had listed out a lot of seeded contestants. There were more than 20 people who were considered to have a high chance of entering the Heaven class and Earth class. For example, Fallen Angel Michelle, Great Han Dynasty's Dong Fangyu, Dimensional Universe Corporation's Sun Yidao, Southern Liang Zhao Lihua, and even Yin Tianhua, who was recommended by the Imperial Scholar. These people had a high chance of success. With Yin Tianhua's strength, it was entirely possible for him to enter the Heaven class without any accidents. Moreover, facing Lin Jun, others might go easy on him, but Yin Tianhua would definitely not. Not only would he not go easy on him, he would even use his life to fight Lin Jun. The reason was needless to say. One could tell just by looking at the Imperial Scholar's expression. To be able to meet Yin Tianhua, Lin Jun's good luck had come to an end. He would definitely not be able to enter the Heaven class, and might even lose his life. It was time for the lunch break. 2 hours later, the last 3 battles would begin. Sitting in the supporters' camp, Lin Jun was resting. To be able to reach this step, Lin Jun had basically completed his mission. As long as he could enter the sacred land, it would be considered a success. With He Gu's skills, even if Lin Jun was in the desolate class, he would be able to slowly upgrade to the heaven class. However, there was only one chance to upgrade every year. Lin Jun did not want to spend a few more years to upgrade. He wanted to obtain a higher position. If I defeat Yin Tianhua, then I will enter the heaven class. In another 2 years, I will be able to upgrade to the heaven class. Therefore, I must not lose this battle. Becoming a student in the top 4 classes, I will learn more things. In the future, it will not be a problem to slowly reveal the sacred land's martial arts. Thinking in his heart, Lin Jun's gaze turned towards the blue whale. Chapter 784. Ning Qingxian came to Lin Jun's side, revealing an enchanting smile. Lin Jun, I'm proud of you. Hee, the battle in the afternoon hasn't even started yet, but Xian is already so proud. What if I lose? It doesn't matter if you lose. Yin Tianhua is already very strong. I just hope that you won't fight too hard. If you can't do it, just give up. You have already completed your task perfectly by entering the yellow class. Let's see how it goes. I'll try my best. Maybe I can pass again. Well, don't force yourself. Your divine body is very strong. It's almost immortal. I believe that no one can kill you in an instant. Even if you can't beat them, you can easily withdraw. Ning Qingxian was very relaxed. In her opinion, Lin Jun would at most fail, but his life wouldn't be in danger. Lin Jun didn't say anything. He looked at the schedule of the competition. There were still no super powerhouses in this round. For example, Michelle, Dong Fengyu, and Zhao Lihua didn't meet each other. There were only 64 people left. If half of them were eliminated, there would only be 32 people left. The few surviving immortal stage experts and the few weaker three-flower experts would undoubtedly be eliminated. Even if he could defeat Yin Tianhua, his next opponent would undoubtedly be a powerhouse. What's the interval between the matches in the afternoon? Ning Qingxian thought for a moment and said, the interval between each match is 10 minutes. Lin Jun nodded silently. 10 minutes seems to be enough for him to do something. Imperial Preceptor, please rest assured. I know Lin Jun's strength very well. He is definitely not this subordinate's opponent. Yin Tianhua had a head of wild red hair. He looked extremely fierce and wild. He was talking to the Imperial Preceptor, Qian Tong, in the dimensional universe. Don't be careless. Lin Jun has a trump card. Don't forget that he is also an alchemist. He hasn't used any pills to increase his star power yet. Yin Tianhua froze for a moment. He was a little nervous. The strength that Lin Jun had displayed now was enough to make people take him seriously. If he were to consume more pills, it would be troublesome. I'll give you a pill that can increase your astral power by 40% for 10 minutes. If you feel that you're in trouble, remember to take it. We must defeat Lin Jun, Imperial Advisor. Pills have side effects, right? Yin Tianhua was a little anxious. Even if he defeated Lin Jun, under the side effects, his path to advancement would be completely blocked. Idiot! If you can't even defeat Lin Jun, can you still advance? If you defeat Lin Jun, you'll at least be promoted to the profound class. Don't you understand this simple truth? Yin Tianhua hurriedly agreed. The state preceptor was right. If they couldn't even pass this round, then what else was there to say? At the very least, winning one more round was good. Very soon, someone delivered a medicinal pill to Yin Tianhua. 2 hours passed quickly at noon, and it was time for the competition to begin in the afternoon. The people of the state of Qin were full of hope as they watched Lin Jun's competition again. These 3 days, the people of the state of Qin were also very tired. They shouted themselves hoarse to cheer for the other contestants, but no one lived up to their expectations. Watching the contestants being eliminated one by Lin Jun, they were more miserable than anyone else. What else could be more painful than watching someone they hated break through all the obstacles and move forward bravely? However, they were powerless. They could only pray that Lin Jun would meet a strong opponent and be eliminated. This was the motivation for the people of the state of Qin to continue watching. Fortunately, Lin Jun's good luck had come to an end. He met Yin Tianhua, the first strong opponent that Lin Jun really met. He belonged to the first group of strong opponents. Although the other contestants were also strong, but compared to Yin Tianhua, they were still more than one level behind. This round could be said to be the most promising one to eliminate Lin Jun. The battle time was up, and the competition began. Lin Jun was teleported to the arena and looked at Yin Tianhua opposite him. Yin Tianhua's weapon was a fiery red battle saber, which was also a spirit treasure. At the level of a three-flower martial artist, most people already had a spirit treasure. After getting on the arena, the two of them did not speak much and immediately began a fierce battle. Lin Jun held the Sky Cutter Divine Sword, and the lotus flowers bloomed on his body. Elements surged as he fought with Yin Tianhua. This was Lin Jun's first time facing such a strong opponent. Yin Tianhua's strength was obviously higher than Lin Jun's. As soon as the battle began, Lin Jun was at a disadvantage. Lin Jun's star power was 48 million, and Yin Tianhua's star power was about 70 million. Although Lin Jun was not as good as his opponent, it would be difficult for his opponent to win in a short time. The reason was simple. Lin Jun's immortal spirit body. The snow lotus flowers on his body could block damage. Lin Jun's strategy was to fight as a guerrilla. He did not aim to kill his opponent, but to waste time. Yin Tianhua was also very annoyed. Lin Jun's Sky Cutter Divine Sword could block his long saber and ensure that he would not be seriously injured like losing his limbs. As for the other external injuries, Lin Jun did not care at all. His stomach was cut open and it would heal quickly. This was the strength of the immortal spirit body. If he could not kill Lin Jun quickly, the battle would not end quickly. If the battle dragged on, Lin Jun could even turn the tables. Damn bastard, do you think you can win by stalling for time? Stop dreaming. I'm not shopping. I won't let you drag this out. Die. Yin Tianhua's star power exploded, and he was about to use a big move. Lin Jun knew that at this critical moment, he did not want to experience what Yin Tianhua's trump card was. He would not allow his opponent to use this move. Lin Jun brandished his sword in the air and displayed the ultimate skill that he had just learned. He Gu's Power Stealing Strike. The sword went straight for Yin Tianhua's chest. This sword was the essence of He Gu's immortal spirit body. When the sword was used, the distance between space was shortened. The energy of the whole body was gathered together, and the star power was gathered at one point. If Lin Jun's star power was similar to Yin Tianhua's, this sword would be enough to kill his opponent. But even if Lin Jun's star power was 20 million lower than his, Yin Tianhua was still flustered by Lin Jun's sword. This sword could be said to have forced Yin Tianhua to use his trump card. He tried many times and used all his skills, but in the end, a wound was left on his chest. Only then did he escape from Lin Jun's attack. Although he was only slightly injured, his ultimate move had been interrupted. His plan to quickly get rid of Lin Jun had gone up in smoke. The battle entered a stalemate again. Lin Jun fought Yin Tianhua with all his strength, trying his best to stall for time. Every time Yin Tianhua wanted to use his trump card, Lin Jun's Power Stealing Strike would be used. He knew that Yin Tianhua wouldn't dare to die together with him. So this move worked every time. The battles in the arena had ended. Out of the 64 people, only 33 were left. Among them, 31 had advanced and were waiting for the results of the battle between the two of them. Although Lin Jun was fighting very hard, he was also observing the situation in the other arenas. After seeing that all the battles had ended, Lin Jun decisively swallowed the God Power Pill. The God Power Pill had side effects, but Lin Jun couldn't wait any longer. If he didn't take the pill, he wouldn't be Yin Tianhua's opponent. After taking the Divine Power Pellet, the 48 million astral energy points increased to 67,200,000. This star power was very close to Yin Tianhua's. After seeing Lin Jun take the pill, Yin Tianhua sneered. You think you're the only one with a pill? He also took out a pill and swallowed it. This pill's effect was similar to Lin Jun's God Power Pill. It increased his star power by 40%, and it instantly increased his star power by almost 30 million. 2 million more, and his astral power would be over 100 million. Because his star power base was higher, the difference between his star power and Lin Jun's had reached 30 million. Ha ha ha. Lin Jun, I've been guarding against this move of yours. Now is the time for you to die." Lin Jun was expressionless as he activated his armor. As he transformed into his armor, Lin Jun used all the means he had at his disposal. Sword energy, elemental power, gravity, Taiyuan sword technique, 5 styles of falling stars, and some of Haigu's personal skills were all used. When his body couldn't handle it, he sent his nascent soul. When his nascent soul couldn't handle it, he used his power-stealing strike. When his strength couldn't keep up, Lin Jun would rather run. When his opponent's attacks were right in front of him, Lin Jun would even release snow lotuses. The petals saved Lin Jun's life again and again. In short, Lin Jun refused to admit defeat or crush the talisman. Facing Yin Tianhua's crazy attacks, he held on tenaciously, as long as he didn't let Yin Tianhua cut him in half. With such a shameless way of fighting, Lin Jun forcefully dragged out the time. Countless times, the people of Qin cheered loudly, thinking that Lin Jun was about to die. However, he always held on tenaciously, and his various new fighting techniques were even more unbelievable. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes. Others didn't know why Lin Jun was holding on so crazily, but Yin Tianhua knew that the effect of his pill was about to wear off. Lin Jun was too difficult to deal with. He had all kinds of fighting techniques, and he had mastered all kinds of elemental powers, time and space. He even had a domain, and his ice, fire, and lightning techniques were all cultivated to perfection. However, Yin Tianhua still couldn't take him down. If he had 5 more minutes, he was confident that he could win. However, time waited for no man. With hundreds of cuts all over his body, Lin Jun held on for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, Yin Tianhua's pill lost its effect. Lin Jun had been waiting for this moment. His divine power pill had been improved and was definitely the best pill on the market. Although Qian Tong was a saint-level alchemist, his divine power pill was definitely not as good as his. When the effect of Yin Tianhua's pill wore off, Lin Jun, who had been beaten down, decisively used his power-stealing strike. At this moment, Yin Tianhua entered a weakened state, and his star power dropped by 50%. More importantly, Lin Jun's star power didn't drop. So when the effect of the pill wore off, Yin Tianhua immediately crushed the talisman. With a heart full of unwillingness, he walked out wrapped in a protective shield. "Lin Jun, let's wait and see." He roared through the shield. Lin Jun didn't even look at him. After reaching the Holy Land, he didn't care about Yin Tianhua anymore. What he cared about now was time. Chapter 785. After defeating Yin Tianhua with great difficulty, Lin Jun had entered the top 32. This was a very dazzling scene. 31 three-flower powerhouses, plus Lin Jun, a world king, had pierced many people's eyes and hearts. Entering the top 32 meant entering the Xian class. This was something no one expected. Below the arena, machinery was furious. "Lin Jun, you bastard, you're actually in the same class as me." Good. Wait until you enter the Xian class. See how I'll deal with you." On the Blue Whale, Qian Tong hated Lin Jun so much that he wanted to personally kill him. "No, I can't let this kid continue. If he enters the Sky and Earth classes, it'll be even harder to deal with him in the future. I have to take action." Those who supported him cheered, while those who hated him were silent. However, the drawing of lots still had to be carried out. There were only 32 people, so the drawing of lots was very fast. Lin Jun didn't expect to draw a weakling. In fact, there were no weaklings now. However, when he saw the results of the drawing, he still felt that it was very coincidental. In this round, he actually drew Zhao Lihua for the Southern Liang's Greenleaf sect. When Zhao Lihua saw that she had drawn Lin Jun, a look of excitement appeared on her cold face. "Brat." Sure enough, enemies meet on a narrow road. "This is retribution. Your retribution has arrived." After seeing that Lin Jun's opponent was Zhao Lihua, Ning Qingshuan's face suddenly changed. "Lin Jun, that's enough. You've already entered the Xian class. Forfeit this round. You're definitely not Grandmaster's opponent." "Oh, Xian, do you have so little confidence in me?" "It's not that I don't have confidence in you. but I know the Grandmaster well. She has been in the three-flower realm for many years. Even Yin Tianhua is no match for the Grandmaster. In my opinion, among all the warriors here, she has a chance to rank in the top 5, or even the top 3. Seeing that Lin Jun didn't seem to be moved, Ning Qingxian said anxiously, "You know, her star power has even reached 80 million. How can you win?" Lin Jun smiled. "It's not necessarily impossible." Looking at Lin Jun's stubborn look, Ning Qingxian sighed. "That's just how you are. You always like challenges and breakthroughs. I can't persuade you, but you have to promise me that no matter what, you can't have any accidents. If I can't even do this, then I don't need to fight in this arena anymore." Lin Jun sat down on the spot. He had expended a lot of energy in the previous match and had also suffered a lot of injuries. Right now, he needed to recover, so he had no time to do anything else. Zhao Lihua was elated when she drew Lin Jun's lot. Firstly, she was especially jealous of Lin Jun. She was jealous that he had killed Tai Gupa and her 2 sisters and kidnapped the future head of the Qingye sect, Ning Qingxian. If she could get rid of Lin Jun in this match, then it could be considered as revenge. Secondly, she felt that Lin Jun's methods were almost exhausted. Although he had created miracles time and time again, he was already an arrow at the end of its flight. All the 3-flower martial artists hoped to draw Lin Jun, the world king, in this round. Whoever drew Lin Jun would almost be guaranteed to enter the Earth class. The Profound class and the Earth class were 2 completely different concepts. Among the 8 classes, the Heaven class and the Earth class were considered to be of the same level, while the Profound class was much worse. If she could become a student of the Earth class, then Zhao Lihua believed that even if she couldn't enter the Heaven class this time, she would definitely be promoted to the Heaven class in the future. As long as her luck wasn't too bad in the last round and she drew Michelle, Dongfang Yu, Sun Yidao, and the others, she would definitely be in the Heaven class. If she successfully passed this round, she would only be 1 step away from success. Thinking about learning the Holy Land's martial arts and breaking through to the 3-flower realm, Zhao Lihua's emotions surged. At this moment, someone suddenly called out to her from behind. Zhao Lihua turned around and saw a person in a black robe waving at her not far away. "Who is it?" The black-robed person quietly revealed his face and then retracted back into the black robe. However, this appearance shocked Zhao Lihua quite a bit, because this person was actually the state of Qin's state preceptor, Qian Tong. Although she was the sect master of the Green Leaf sect and was also at the peak of the 3-flower realm, she couldn't be compared to a 3-flower martial artist like Qian Tong. Qian Tong was the state preceptor of the state of Qin, but this identity wasn't much. He was also a Holy Land martial artist and a saint-grade alchemist. No matter which aspect Zhao Lihua looked at, she wasn't on the same level as Qian Tong. Moreover, she wasn't familiar with Qian Tong and didn't know why he was looking for her. However, she still didn't dare to be negligent. Seeing that Qian Tong didn't want to be seen by others, she could only quietly walk over. "Saint Teacher, is there something you need from me?" Qian Tong asked Zhao Lihua. "How confident are you in your battle with Lin Jun?" Zhao Lihua pondered for a moment. She wanted to say 100%, but when she reached the tip of her tongue, she changed her mind and said 80%. Qian Tong shook his head slightly. "Not enough. Don't think that Lin Jun has no other means. He still has a black hole beast transformation that he hasn't used yet. You should know about this move, right?" Lin Jun's information wasn't a secret. He had used the black hole devour many times, so others naturally knew about it. Zhao Lihua nodded slightly. "This is also my only concern. This is also what I'm worried about. We can't lose this battle no matter what. I'll lend you this thing for now. Keep it safe and use it when the time comes." Saying so, Qian Tong handed the mountain-shaped planet in his hand to Zhao Lihua. This is my treasure. Lin Jun's black hole beast transformation also needs time. Take this thing and use the gravitational field to suppress him. His speed will drop, and you won't give him a chance to use his black hole beast transformation." When Zhao Lihua heard this, she immediately took Qian Tong's mountain. "In that case, this old woman will accept it. Many thanks, Imperial Preceptor." "You're welcome." As long as we can get rid of Lin Jun, this is nothing. You successfully advanced, and I've vented some of my anger, but you must promise me one thing. When the battle begins, don't let Lin Jun leave the ring alive. This old woman can't guarantee anything, but I will definitely do so. Qin Tong didn't say anything more, simply tightening his black robe before turning and leaving the crowd. He had just said that he was going to relieve himself. The battle was about to begin, so he couldn't leave the blue whale for too long. Squeezing the mountain in her hand, Zhao Lihua closed her eyes slightly. Lin Jun, you really are doomed to destruction. Even the Qin Empire's imperial preceptor wants you dead, so how can you still live? This time, this old woman's luck has come. Not only can I get rid of you, but I've also made friends with a Saint Great Alchemist. After so many years of hard work, I finally see hope for success. Lin Jun was making full use of his time to recover his strength. At this moment, his star energy was unprecedentedly high, more than 67 million star energy. Even Immortal Realm cultivators couldn't reach this height. The next battle is against Zhao Lihua. I can imagine that this battle won't be easy, but I have to fight for it. If I succeed, I'll enter the Earth class. If I fail, no, I can't fail. I can fail at any time, but against Zhao Lihua, I absolutely can't lose. In his inner world, the ice snow lotus's cold chi was slightly rippling. This cold chi was one of Lin Jun's protective treasures. Whenever his body was injured, the cold chi would prevent his blood from flowing out, so he wouldn't be affected by excessive blood loss. He was making full use of his time to heal his injuries, and, at the same time, he was trying his best to comprehend the cold chi. With one more method, he would have more confidence in the battle. Lin Jun was able to persist until now by relying on his rich combat methods. The enemy could guard against one, but they couldn't guard against another. Far away from the battlefield was Meteor Lake. Time passed by, and it was less than 5 minutes before the battle began. What's that over there? In the distant horizon, a huge fireball fell from the sky. That was a star falling. Just looking at the distance, that fireball was at least a few 100,000 kilometers away, or even millions of kilometers. It was impossible for a normal person to see it from such a distance. But to be able to see it, it could only mean that the fireball was too big. That was a star, a fixed star. Meteor Lake's sacred ground had such a unique scenery. Every day, there would be stars falling from the sky in a meteor lake. But it was still rare for a fixed star to fall. If this star had been on Earth, it would have burned Earth to ashes even if it had come close to Earth, let alone landing on it. But in Meteor Lake, which had a diameter of tens of billions or even hundreds of billions of light years, a fixed star was just a small fireball, unable to cause any waves. Everyone took a few glances and turned their attention back to the sacred ground. The stage that was about to start was still more interesting. Only Lin Jun's gaze followed the fixed star until it disappeared from his sight. Fixed stars, so that's how they fall. His mind was clear, as if he had comprehended something. The battle for the top 32 finally began. The Sacred Grounds battle that had lasted for 3 days was nearing its end. This was already the 16th round of elimination. Because of Lin Jun's existence, all the experts' limelight had been stolen. It wasn't just those from Fallen Star Lake that had their limelight stolen away, but the other 3 holy lands that were simultaneously holding their own had their limelight stolen away as well. Out of all 4 holy lands, Lin Jun was the only world king that was able to enter the top 32. Besides Lin Jun, the Twin Tree Garden and the God Sealing Altar each had a longevity martial artist enter the top 32. People from the 2 sacred grounds even called them geniuses, but a world king from Meteor Lake had entered the top 32. This shocked everyone. Lin Jun was somewhat famous in the entire primordial realm, but no one expected that a world king like him could reach this step in a sacred ground where experts were as common as clouds. Almost all the cameras were aimed at Lin Jun to see if he could still create a miracle. The countdown ended. Time was up. Lin Jun, who had been sitting cross-legged and motionless, let out a breath. His eyes bloomed with a terrifying light. The next moment, he was teleported onto the stage. Zhao Lihua from southern Liang appeared on the stage at the same time as him. Chapter 786. After Zhao Lihua stepped onto the stage, she lightly tapped the floor with her bamboo cane. Her eyes seemed to be shooting out icy daggers as she faced Lin Jun with a sinister smile. Lin Jun, when I stepped onto the stage, someone told me to be careful of you. I really don't understand. Why should I be careful of a brat like you? Lin Jun pulled out his sky-slashing divine sword. You will know soon enough. Let's try it then. Before Zhao Lihua finished her sentence, her bamboo cane was already in front of Lin Jun. Lin Jun blocked with his sword. With a loud bang, Lin Jun actually felt his arm go numb. One had to know that Lin Jun's God Power Pill was still in effect, and his astral energy had reached over 67 million. Yet, Zhao Lihua's bamboo cane had actually numbed his arm. This old woman's astral energy was ridiculously high. Not only was Lin Jun shocked, Zhao Lihua was also shocked. She had 80 million star power, but she couldn't even push Lin Jun back. This young man was too shocking. While she was shocked, it also ignited Zhao Lihua's killing intent. This brat must be eliminated. She waved her bamboo cane and attacked Lin Jun like a gust of wind. The two of them started a fierce battle on the stage. Lin Jun didn't want to continue fighting with Zhao Lihua like this because the divine power pill only had 7 to 8 minutes left. Once the pill's effect was over, he would enter a weakened state and lose without a doubt. Ending the battle must be done within the pill's effect. The solution was to transform into the black hole beast and use the black hole storm to devour Zhao Lihua. Transforming into the black hole beast required some time, and he needed to increase the distance between them. But Zhao Lihua wouldn't let him do as he wished. Her bamboo cane's attacks were like a tidal wave, entangling Lin Jun in close combat. She wouldn't give him any chance to escape. One was in a hurry to leave the battlefield and transform, while the other was stubbornly following. Lin Jun was at a disadvantage in terms of mentality. Slap! The bamboo cane struck Lin Jun's ribs, breaking a few of his ribs. His chest tightened, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Ha ha! Lin Jun, don't think I don't know what you're planning. You want to use your black hole beast transformation to deal with me, right? I've been guarding against this move of yours for a long time. Unfortunately, you don't have the ability to do so in front of me. The bamboo cane turned into a continuous stream of water, like mercury flowing into the ground. After taking a hit, Lin Jun felt extremely uncomfortable. This bamboo cane was a spirit treasure, so a single hit would cause his internal organs to vibrate. Temporarily dispelling the thought of retreating, Lin Jun focused on the battle. At this moment, Lin Jun could be considered to be in his best state. His star power was the highest, and his battle experience and methods were not the slightest bit inferior. Although Zhao Lihua had 80 million star power, she could only use 90% of it, which was 72 million star power. Compared to Lin Jun's current star power, there was only a difference of less than 5 million star power. In a battle of this level, a difference of 5 million star power was not considered large. It was almost negligible. When Lin Jun put away the thought of escaping from her and fought her head-on, Zhao Lihua finally realized the true strength of this young man. Even with her decades of accumulated experience, she could not gain the upper hand against Lin Jun. If not for Lin Jun's handsome face, she would have thought that she was facing an old monster that had lived for hundreds of thousands or even millions of years. How is this possible? Zhao Lihua's forehead was covered in sweat. She thought that Lin Jun, a mere world king, would not be her match. She did not expect him to be so strong. Boom! A fireball came flying at her. Zhao Lihua waved her bamboo cane to disperse it. In the midst of the flames, a planet fell from the sky. It was too late to dodge, so Zhao Lihua could only take it head-on. The bamboo cane and the planet collided. Although the planet was shattered, Zhao Lihua's chest felt stuffy and she staggered back. Lin Jun followed behind her. He stepped on the plum blossom steps and swept out with a void cutter divine sword. Clang! The bamboo cane blocked it, but it also caused Zhao Lihua to lose her last bit of resistance. A sword beam shot out from his palm, and he spun his body and swept out again. Zhao Lihua used all her strength to lower her head and dodge. She managed to dodge her head, but she did not manage to dodge her hair. Her hair was swept by Lin Zhen's sword beam. Lin Zhen sliced off her scalp and a large amount of hair. Zhao Lihua screamed as blood flowed down from her head. Although the sword beam did not cause any serious injuries, it left her in a sorry state. Most of her hair was cut off, and blood flowed all over her face. She looked ferocious and terrifying, like a demon. Lin Zhen's attack succeeded. He retreated and prepared to use the Black Hole Devourer to finish off Zhao Lihua. But before he could transform into the Black Hole Beast, Zhao Lihua suddenly raised her hand. A grayish object rose into the air and reached the top of the stage's barrier. A huge pressure descended from the sky. The strength of a martial artist could carry a mountain and chase after the moon. But at this moment, Lin Zhen felt that it was no longer a mountain above his head. It was a star. Under the influence of Zhao Lihua's star power, this mountain-like object released a gravitational force as strong as a planet. Lin Zhen was almost forced to kneel on the ground. Armor transformation. Lin Zhen's armor transformation was activated instinctively. He pressed his hands on the ground, and blood flowed out from the gaps between his scales. His bones were cracking as though they were about to break at any moment. After the stage was destroyed by Lin Zhen's God of Destruction Thunder, the stage this time was rebuilt and was even sturdier than the previous one. But under Lin Zhen's feet, fine cracks still appeared. What is this? Seeing that Lin Zhen was unable to move, Zhao Lihua walked over in a sorry state. She used her hand to wipe her face. Blood flowed out, making her face even more hideous. Gritting her teeth, Zhao Lihua said, "Little bastard, let's see what you can do this time. I'm going to skin you alive." Lin Zhen raised his hand with difficulty. There was a talisman in his palm. As long as he crushed it, he would be able to leave the stage. Smack! Zhao Lihua's bamboo cane flew through the air and hit Lin Zhen's wrist. His wrist hurt, and the talisman fell. Zhao Lihua snatched it away. Trying to run? It's too late. I'll cut off as much of your flesh as you cut off my hair today. A dagger with a cold gleam appeared in Zhao Lihua's hand, and she swung it down. Lin Zhen could not dodge at all under the gravitational force as strong as a planet. A piece of his flesh and scales were sliced off. Ha ha! This feels so good. Now that you've transformed into such a big guy, it's enough for me to slice you tens of thousands of times. Lin Zhen, I know that your divine body is strong, but I don't know if you can survive after being sliced into pieces. Slash, slash, slash. As the knife flew up and down, Lin Zhen was instantly covered in wounds. Hubby, seeing this, Ning Qingshuan's heart was about to break. At this moment, she was really afraid. Lin Zhen could not leave the stage now. Was he going to be tortured to death? Grandmaster, please have mercy. Ning Qingshuan's pleas were useless. Zhao Lihua saw it, but she only gave her a cold look. Lin Zhen heard it. He turned around and looked at Ning Qingxian, then shook his head. Ning Qingxian was stunned. She saw unyielding in Lin Zhen's eyes. The people of Qin could finally cheer. Lin Zhen was now a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. There was no way for him to make a comeback. Under the cheers of the people, Zhao Lihua was in high spirits. With a knife in one hand and a bamboo cane in the other, she attacked Lin Zhen crazily. Who told you to be arrogant again? Who told you to go against me? Is the Southern Liang someone you can offend? Is the Green Leaf sect someone you can offend? When you were in high spirits back then, did you ever think that today would come? Lin Zhen's body bent as he endured the crazy attacks. However, he did not fall. Bam! Lin Zhen seemed to be struggling on her deathbed as she grabbed Zhao Lihua's ankle. Ha ha ha! Do you still want to struggle? Unfortunately, it's useless. I'll cut off your hand now. The knife in her hand swung out and cut Lin Zhen's wrist. However, after the knife entered the flesh, it was difficult to move forward. Lin Zhen's immortal spirit body was not for show. It was already very difficult to cut through the scales. When it reached the bones, the knife could no longer move forward. What a tough divine body. However, it's useless. You can't even move now. Even if you grab my ankle, it's useless. I could still beat you to death and cut you into pieces. The crackling bamboo cane and the dancing sabers continued to descend. Some people cheered, some were silent, and some were crying. However, everyone was certain that this match was over. Not only was it over, but Lin Jun was going to meet a tragic end. On the back of the blue whale, beside Emperor Zhu Ziheng, his empress sighed. Sigh, what a pity for a handsome guy. The fifth young master of the sacred land, Jin Nuo, frowned slightly. Compared to Lin Jun and Zhao Lihua, he still felt that Lin Jun had greater potential. However, this was the arena, and the strong preyed on the weak. He could not forcefully interfere. More than 8 minutes had passed. Zhao Lihua was already panting. Lin Jun's immortal spirit body was too difficult to deal with, especially when he lowered his head and grabbed her ankle to prevent her from moving. He also did not expose his vital points. It would take her a long time to kill him. Brat, your drug's effect is about to wear off. When it's over, it'll be your death. Why are my feet so cold? Zhao Lihua lowered her head and suddenly realized in horror that her feet had been frozen to the arena by Lin Jun at some point in time. This ice rapidly formed and spread. It froze her feet, knees, and thighs. The ice was like an ancient black ice, suffused with a faint green light. Even with her star power, she felt the blood in her lower body freeze, and she lost all feeling. Brat, how dare you? Zhao Lihua raised her bamboo cane and struck again. Lin Jun received a few blows from the bamboo cane and retreated. Seeing Lin Jun's actions, Zhao Lihua was scared out of her wits. If she allowed Lin Jun to pull away, wouldn't that give him a chance to use Black Hole Storm? Absolutely not. Zhao Lihua's star power was still strong. With a point of her finger, the mountain of stars given to her by Lin Jun tumbled and pressed down with an unparalleled gravity. She wanted to crush Lin Jun to death on the arena. Facing the descending mountain of stars, Lin Jun, who had transformed into his armor, let out a heaven-shaking roar. It's my turn now. Star, fall.